You know, here.
What's up?
I was thinking about something.
What are we thinking about, bro?
I was thinking about what's going on in the earth, right?
What's happening in our minds?
Yeah, and I wondered, why does it matter?
We're about to find out.
Holy shit. Ready?
Just kidding.
Welcome to Earth, Mind, and Matter. We said, fuck it, let's talk about albums. We said, let's talk about some movies and some fucking comics. This week in the universe, across the internet.
So what's up, Javi?
What's going on, Frankie?
Oh my God.
Wow, you're such a nerd.
You with 2 R's or 1?
You know,
what's up?
I'll say that you're a nerd with 2 R's and 3 D's.
So nerd.
No, what the fuck? Why you gotta roll your tongue like that?
Because I'm Mexican. It's the only way.
God, it sounds so gross right in my ears, like with the headphones on too.
Well, fuck you then, bro. I can only be myself, to be quite honest. Wait, so before anything, because I was so excited to do this. First of all, welcome to what?
Ooh, Earth, Mind, and Matter, where we're on the Earth.
And we're talking about what's in our minds.
This is why it matters.
This is Earth, Mind, and Matter. I'm Frankie.
I'm Javi.
And yeah, man. So what episode is this? Like 9 now?
This is 9.
Jesus Christ, bro. Jesus Christ. And not N-E-I-N, right?
You know, I honestly thought about it, and it's like, you know, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, people are probably going to get the wrong idea now that I think about it.
Neo-Nazis and all that stuff.
People are going to write conspiracy theories about us.
Fuck it, bro. As long as we're written about, you know what I'm trying to say? Because some people aren't written about at all. Fuck those people. We're more special. And speaking of special, I wrote a song.
Okay.
I wrote an original song for us today.
Okay. You know, it's crazy. I've been thinking about writing a song too.
Really? Well, fuck your chance. This is my chance right here.
Fuck.
All right. So this is a little song I call Earth, Mind, and Matter.
Okay.
I just hope you enjoy it.
Very original.
Very original, bro. It's I mean, literally, it's the name of our podcast. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope I don't fuck up. You ready?
Okay.
I hope this picks up. Let me test run. You hear that?
Yeah.
All right. So the fellows at home and fellas at home,
What the fuck?
gals, I mean, whatever. This is an original piece by me. I fucked up the song. I wrote that song for us, and I just thought it was really special.
Very
man.
beautiful.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll just say it invoked something very deep within me.
Hey, yo.
It really just got me right in the soul.
Nice.
Can I just say?
Say.
It's about alliteration, isn't it? It's about alliteration.
I should have called it alliteration. But okay, on all jokes aside, except my song, which was not a joke at all. That was a very serious piece that came from the heart. And so yeah, man, wrote that just for us.
I felt it. What you just did, Frankie, is beautiful.
I fucked up the song, Javi. I thought that's supposed to be a song that everybody knows.
I couldn't tell because it was so good. It's like Kurt Cobain said, you just ignore the mistakes. Keep going.
It's like Kurt Cobain said.
Oh, no.
That was good. It didn't make because he didn't say it, but, you know, I guess if the bullet came out his mouth.
If the shotgun had, like, a mouth.
If the microphone was next to the shotgun, you know.
Or if we had a shotgun mic. What
is that?
It's just like a little microphone that attaches to your shirt, and it's called a shotgun mic.
I thought that was called something else. I'm not gonna think about it right now because I'm just gonna be saying But anyway, we're on episode 9. We're off to an incredible start. And yeah, man, it's just today's gonna be a nice, good conversation. We record pretty early in the week, right?
Yeah.
To be a little more transparent with the audience, we record like maybe a Monday, Thursday, Wednesday, but it's a Saturday. So right now, people are getting crazy, getting stupid in the streets, throwing up. I saw a pile throw up on my way to work today.
Nice.
It was disgusting. But the most disgusting throw up I've ever seen in my life was on the E train.
Ooh, yeah,
it was like
what was so special about that one?
So I was in the E train. It was in the morning. It was like 7 a.m, right? I was going to something special in Central Park, and it was just like neon, like orange red, like macaroni and cheese red. You ever seen that red on Crayola?
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
It was so bright and disgusting, and you know when you just look at something at the wrong time, it just caught me and it was nasty. So this one isn't as bad as that one, but it's never nice to see puke. So,
Well, how's the shit between the dumpsters behind work?
oh man, we seen a shit that had chickpeas at the end of it. It was about like 8 feet long, and it was disgusting. But I'm sure I'm not the only one. There's an infatuation with like perfect shits. Is that true? Like, have you never taken a shit so together and you're like, wow, I did that? You know,
you just step out of the bathroom, you're like, fucking
hands on your hips.
Hands on your hips, and you're like, guys, I just took the meanest shit.
I did that. I did that. I've always I know that men can never compare themselves to women in terms of pregnancy, but I always felt like every time we take big shits, that's the closest we get to pregnancy.
You know, close but no cigar.
Yeah, pretty much. Unless your baby's a piece of shit.
Oh my god, dumpster baby.
Yeah, too soon. Too soon,
Damn.
Javi.
Too soon. Too soon for what?
That's a little premature. You see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? Alcohol is a crazy, crazy thing. But so yeah, we're shooting on a Saturday night. People are getting crazy right now, especially because it's New York City and it's about 9:00 p.m. So the pregame has begun.
And who says we can't get crazy?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe after the podcast, but during the podcast, we gotta. You know, this is gonna be a serious ass podcast. So the fact that we're starting like this is hilarious because I got a couple topics for you.
Okay.
You want to know what those are?
Nah.
All right. Well, I got 3 topics, and they're pretty important and cool.
Okay.
That's how I'm gonna label them.
That's the best kind of news. Important and cool.
You know it. So I wanted to start off with the shopping cart killer.
Okay.
I've been hearing about this a lot. I've actually heard about it before, and I didn't think it was that interesting. And then shit just went down not too long ago in Brooklyn. So I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to talk about how recently Congress has just passed an anti-lynching bill.
Okay.
And after trying so many times, so that's a whole thing that happened. And my third topic is... Oh my God, Javi.
What?
I'm a little confused right now.
What do you mean?
I have 3 topics and I don't know what my third one is.
What do you mean you don't know what your third topic is?
I have so much notes that I'm looking at right now and I'm sweating. My sweating is getting to my eyes. So it's a fiasco right now. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm going to surprise you with the third one.
Okay.
Damn, bro. Okay, so let me get this computer on the table and we'll get to the start. But I will talk to you about the shopping cart killer first.
Okay.
All right.
Let's dive into it.
Fucking, I am actually sweating like a pig. I'll take off this hat.
Do it.
All right. So recently since January up until now, there's been a murderer, I would say, or a serial killer, right?
Okay.
And his trademark is a shopping cart. You know, I can't think of any other serial killers in the past that have done like crazy stuff with like certain trademarks. But isn't there like the Zodiac killer? Wasn't he one?
Yeah.
And he would leave Z's on people, or what was it?
He would leave notes where he wrote in sort of I guess it's like hieroglyphics or something like that.
Something like that, right?
Like his own kind of like sort of
Code?
language or code kind of type thing. So he would just kind of leave notes and hints and kind of things like that around. And yeah, that was sort of his thing.
Gotcha. And anybody else I can't really think of, but I mean, there's been a whole bunch, you know, and I know we've talked about serial killers in the past and how
but also Ted Cruz is totally the Zodiac killer.
No doubt in my mind.
There's no way you were gonna do this and talk about the Zodiac killer, and I'm not gonna say that.
I mean, it's proven. It's proven.
It's
science
just
has said
factual.
it. Crime, enthusiasts have said
When he
it.
was a baby, he killed as many people.
He killed a bunch of Zodiacs. So since January, a bunch of murders have been happening in the country, right? U.S. in particular, and what the person's been doing is leaving the bodies of the woman in particular also is in shopping carts, right? And just to get straight to it, there was a woman who died by the name of Elizabeth Redmond, right?
Okay.
She was 54 years old, and another woman who died by the name of Tanita Larisse Smith, who was 38 years old, who died. The suspected killer is Anthony Eugene Robinson. So he's convicted.
Eugene Robinson.
Mm-hmm. He's convicted. He's in prison right now. And I wanted to ask real quick: do you know the difference between jail and prison?
Jail. It's kind of like mini prison. It's like you go there for like smaller crimes or things like that, and then prison is more like penitentiaries and things like that.
I was really hoping that you got that wrong because I have a definition here, and I was gonna say most people don't know at all what the fuck the differences is. I think they know the definitions of both, but don't know which to apply it to. But that's exactly right. like literally word for word on my notes.
Gotcha, bitch.
Fuck, bro. I literally my notes here it's paused and says, "Do you know a prison?" Anyway, fuck you. So he's.
But anyways, tell me, Frankie, what is it? Because I'm an asshole and don't know.
Anyways, so anyways, he's in prison in North Carolina. The Anthony Eugene Robinson guy right now, right? And he's in prison on 2 counts of first-degree murder of the 2 women I just mentioned earlier, which is Tanita and Elizabeth, right? And he's also charged with felony counts of concealing, transporting, and altering a dead body. So he's a savage, bro. He's a savage. Yeah. And
what does that mean, altering the body?
Oh, because he dismembered them. Like he dismembered the bodies and stuff like that. And I'll get to a point in a second that really like enhances this whole story because shit gets crazy. And not only those 2 victims, but 2 more victims have also been found in shopping carts. Every time he murders somebody, he leaves their body in a shopping cart.
Weird.
And one lady named Stephanie Harrison, who's 48, she was killed and put inside a shopping cart. And Cheyenne Brown, who was 29, was found in a Moon Inn hotel in Alexandria, Virginia on December 15th. All not too long ago.
Wow.
So this is very, very recent.
Wait, so is he only killing women?
So that's what it seems like, right? It seems like his pattern of doing things, which most serial killers have that pattern or trait, like the Zodiac killer and all those other serial killers we definitely can't remember at the moment, you know? His trait seems to be a woman that he's been looking up like on Tinder, on dating sites.
Okay.
And then he's been murdering them and leaving their bodies in shopping carts and all that stuff. It's just interesting because I mean that's why I didn't talk about the story when the article came out, which was in January, because I was like, this just seems like a one-time off kind of guy who's just doing some shit, which is still incredibly wrong to murder people. Yeah, but just it didn't seem that interesting to me. But 4 people to be killed is crazy, man. Even one person.
Yeah, I mean it always makes me think about like, especially after the first time it's happened, if the other accounts that have happened, if it's done by the same person or copycats.
And that's also a big thing, right?
Because that happens all the time with copycats coming in and things like that. So I'm really curious of like, are there any theories or things like that where it's like, is it one person or multiple people? And
how uncreative do you have to be to murder somebody then copy the other person that murdered? There's so many ways. Fucking be creative, think of different things. So the Cheyenne Brown lady who was found in the Moon Inn motel in Virginia, apparently that Anthony Eugene Robinson has stayed there on at least 5 occasions, right?
Okay.
And Cheyenne Brown traveled for Washington, D.C. She traveled from Washington, D.C. to Virginia and was believed to be the last person to contact Robinson before she rest in peace.
Damn.
Her body and the body of Stephanie Harrison were found very close to each other on November 23rd. So these are all happening within a vicinity of one another, Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's just interesting because it's getting to a point where the police chief have asked officials and they've asked the FBI for help basically to learn more about who Robinson is altogether. They use like video surveillance and text to find out what their relationship was with the woman and stuff.
Okay.
But this motherfucker been getting away with shit like crazy, like he's in prison now. And what the police force have to say is we believe that there are others who have had contact with Robinson who can provide crucial information about him to us to help solve these crimes and stuff. And
so what are they trying to solve now? Like why he did it?
Well, they're trying to solve if there's been more women that he's killed whose bodies are hidden somewhere else in shopping carts or this and that.
Okay.
And that's why with that article, again, like for me, it was still disinteresting because it seemed like they already caught him and that he's done and all that stuff. But now you look at the idea of copycat killers and all that. And interestingly enough, on March 3rd, 2022, in New York City, a woman's dismembered body was found in a shopping cart in Brooklyn.
Damn.
So this was 2 days ago.
2 days ago?
Yeah, March 3rd, 2022, the New York Times reported and every other news source reported police officers found a grisly scene outside a Brooklyn pawn shop. It was on Thursday. A 911 caller discovered a woman's dismembered torso that had been stuffed in a shopping cart.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
man, it's kind of crazy.
Also, real quick, we never called it out in the beginning of the episode, but today is March 5th.
Yes, it is.
So 2 days ago, March 3rd.
The listener was like, "What do you mean 2 days ago?" I don't know what day it is. It could be like now, like a year from now. So you're right, absolutely right. So it's March 5th, and 2 days ago on March 3rd, somebody found this body, which doesn't mean it happened on March 3rd. It could have been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And the body was placed in a bag that was inside a shopping cart, and it was found in the industrial section of East New York in Brooklyn near Broadway Junction. What MSNBC News said is that they're trying to use the DNA to identify the victim. And this guy got rid of the fingerprints. He got rid of all the teeth. There's no marks. There's no tattoos. No birthmarks. Basically, all they know about this person, with no surprise, is that it's an adult female.
Fuck.
So it sounds all like the same shit that we just talked about like a couple minutes ago, where it's like woman being killed, put into shopping carts. And the first thing that comes to my mind is that this guy's already in prison, right?
Yeah.
So who the fuck is doing all this stuff if not a copycat killer? Or did he do this before and leave the body there?
Oh, man. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Fuck.
So either this guy finessed or other people are finessing for him because of his actions and stuff. So, I mean, it's a weird situation. And I know, like, you know, just because of the ridiculous start we had, like, I'm just in a cheery mood and stuff. So this is obviously not funny stuff. But it's crazy, and a medical examiner is going to conduct an autopsy soon to really discover what happened to this person. Aside true tragedy, because realistically, this person got fucked up, you know, and apparently the person that found them just was pushing the cart because they thought there was cans and stuff inside.
Okay.
But it was apparently a body in there, so cops had to come and shut that shit down.
Was the body in like bags or something in the shopping cart, or were just the parts just sitting in there?
It was in bags in the shopping cart. The two other victims in the past of the four I mentioned, some of them were just in shopping carts with a blanket laid over them.
Okay.
So it's a mixture of all these things, but I mean, I don't know, man. At the end of the day, like, it's still a tragedy and it's still super random. And what the fuck happened there?
Yeah, like, what the fuck? Why would that even? God, that's so bizarre. Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man.
God,
hey, where'd you get all these shopping carts?
That's like a really good question because like I know a lot of the times like shopping carts have like that electronic thing where it's like when you take it too far, like the lock thing.
Have you been trying to steal a lot of shopping carts, Javi?
Hey, listen, man. Whatever
mind your business.
Do, like, oh, hey, why you coming at me?
I'm just trying to do a podcast. Come on.
I'm just taking a shopping cart. Hey, oh, nothing happening here.
You're Italian, bro. That's funny as shit. But yeah, ultimately, and I just figured out third topic. Oh shit.
Don't tell me yet.
I won't, because I don't think I did. What the fuck, bro? I'm just, yo, this is a crazy episode right now, bro.
I knew this episode was gonna be weird, and it's already weird.
Fuck it, yo. What are we gonna do? Fuck it, it's your life. Yeah, but I mean, I don't look at serial killing being a thing that happens so often today because we have so much phones everywhere, so much, you know, FBI futuristic tech that I think could shut that shit down pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But truth be told, it's still a scary world out there. And last week we talked about the MTA and how we're trying to make it a little safer, or how the city's trying to make it a little safer.
Yeah.
And I was in a bar with my friend, you know, Brian. Shout out to Brian. And
do I know him?
Nah, he's your enemy. Remember, he's your enemy.
Oh, that's the guy that said that Jonathan is really ugly.
Yeah, man. And Jonathan is also your enemy.
What? I don't even know Jonathan. I don't like the fact that this Brian guy is just making fun of people. Just making fun of people that he doesn't even know.
Oh, our listeners are like, I don't have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Actually, I'm gonna go listen to something else. But we were watching a TV in the bar, and we talked about how just next to us on Queens Plaza, which is in New York City, somebody got hit in the face with a hammer, and now they're blind now. I don't know if you didn't hear about that.
No.
So somebody was on the train, and they just came up to him and hit him with a hammer, and now that person is blind. I think it was a child, or not a child, but a very young person. And in the same vicinity of the news, there was a video, and a purely captured video of some woman waiting for the train, and some guy comes up to the woman and he grabs a plastic bag which is full of his feces and just rubs it all over her.
I heard about that.
And it wasn't just like a one-time smear. It was like multiple smears on all locations of her body. And it was just terrible, bro. Like, I feel like you don't even have to wait weeks or months to find the crazy thing that happens in New York City. It's just a common occurrence that happens too frequently. And it's disgustingly sad. And I mean, I guess that's why, you know, we talk about these things so loosely because it's very just common here, you know? I mean, I know rubbing shit on a person and hitting them with a hammer isn't killing them and dismembering them and putting them in a shopping cart.
Mm-hmm.
It just still is fuckery, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking about it myself where it's like, honestly, New York City, I feel like recently, especially in the last like year or so, it's getting as bad as like how it used to be during the 70s.
Yeah.
Like, it's just getting really bad out there. And it's kind of, it really just raises so many questions of just like, what is going on?
Yeah,
it's
man.
like something in the air or something like that. What the fuck?
Yeah, it must be something in the air, to be honest with you, but
what I'm still on the whole thing of like, why are shopping carts? Like, honestly, why a shopping cart?
And in the news, it looked like it was a Target shopping cart, and Target just raised its wage from $20 to $24 an hour. So maybe they're trying to compensate.
What if like it's like a Target employee and that's how they got the carts?
Nah, bro, it's like a Payless employee. You remember Payless? Does that exist though? Do Payless exist?
Think so.
Think so?
I think
they
so.
got rid of all the Paylesses over here.
Nah, I think I've probably seen one here or there scattered amongst.
Yeah. Payless, please sponsor us. We love your shoes and your sales.
Yeah, we'll fucking sponsor you guys. Come on.
Well, you speaking for Payless now? You're Italian and a Payless spokesperson.
Hey, oh, Payless, come over here. Come on and sponsor us. You know you want to taste of these shoes.
My cheese, taste my cheese on my shoe. Sorry, all Italian people. I'm so sorry.
You know, all I'm saying is they should make a shoe that has a grater on the side, so that way you can grate your cheese with your shoe. Wouldn't that be so fucking dope?
Oh man! And then when you step on somebody's foot by mistake and you just scrape their skin off,
yeah,
they're like, "Hey, it looks like marinara."
you know how people put spikes on the side of their wheels so that way they can like drive into other people's wheels to pop them out? It'd be the equivalent of that. You could have grates on the side of your shoes and just fucking kick people and be like, "Fuck you!" And
I've never seen spikes on wheels in person, only on TV.
Okay, well you're not living. Like, I mean. And you said that my turtle story was only like what, number 10 out of 17 or something like that? Yeah. And you haven't seen spikes on a wheel?
I've never seen spikes on wheels.
Nah, you're not living, bro. I'm sorry.
I've seen a guy named Spikes have wheels, like a car. So you're not living ultimately.
Was he driving a Prius?
Nah, bro. He was driving a Harley Davidson.
Ooh. Okay. You got me there.
This will be the last podcast we shoot on Saturdays.
Oh, I forgot to mention.
What's up?
We forgot to mention.
What we forgot to mention?
This is the last episode.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is the last episode, guys.
Nobody told me.
What?
There's literally 2 people that shoot this podcast, and nobody told me this.
We talked about this.
Oh no, we did talk about this.
Yeah,
this is our final episode.
We put it on the Slack. Remember? This is the last episode.
The Slack?
Yeah.
The Slack.
You don't remember when I put it on the Slack?
No, I remember.
Okay.
Well, goodbye, everybody.
Look,
that was our third topic.
We're gonna go off with a bang. Don't worry. This episode's still gonna go strong. Nice. This is the last episode.
Man, we just decided to up and quit it. Honestly speaking, fuck this show.
It's just there's just something that just wasn't working. So we were like
everything wasn't working.
I mean,
mostly Javi wasn't working. I was working my ass off.
Honestly, like if you could think of someone that was working their ass off more than me, I don't think you could think of anyone.
I mean, I just did. It was me.
I don't know because I try so hard to think about it, and all I see is a pair of slacks. Because you're always slacking, man.
It's crazy, bro.
I don't know what to tell you.
Nah, man. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. I mean, oh man, bro. I did not expect that to go there. I'm just gonna close my laptop.
Listen.
Well, goodbye, everybody.
Not yet. We still got the rest of the episode to go. What the fuck is wrong? Did you not read the message on Slack?
Clearly not.
Did you not read the message?
We're doing Italian accents, fucking spikes on wheels, final episodes, bad jokes. No, I'm kidding. Well, apparently.
God damn it.
Listen, guys, to give you some info, me and Javi work a lot on the sidelines for this show, right? We put in a lot of work. and sometimes we don't go all the way through with the work on the right day, aka uploading some highlights or me with the videos. We got a lot of responsibilities in our lives, so whenever something is accomplished, we send each other a pair of slacks because one of us is slacking, and ultimately I guess that's what ended this whole show. So yeah, man. Bye, guys. After this episode. So,
man, what a beehole.
This is a great episode. Fuck it, I don't give a fuck. Start off with my original song, and then we're going on to here, and man, fuck it, yo, I'm having a good ass time. Honestly speaking, because it just, bro, we get to do this every single week.
Yeah.
This is fucking cool, man. And I was actually thinking, because it's so late in the week, I didn't think we were gonna be able to shoot. I almost thought that we were gonna have to drop one of those trial episodes, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, man. I feel like we're on such a good roll, weekly by week, and we got a good thing going on, man. So how about we shout out how many downloads we got? I know we were trying to talk about that recently.
So just let you guys know, we recently hit 250 downloads in the last week or two now.
Yeah, man, which is fucking crazy because that just is insane, man. Every time we check the stats, I kind of expect just like 100 or like 99 because off the bat, we've only seen like 50 to 75, and we've gotten streams off Spotify, Xbox Live streaming.
Yeah.
We've got like
Podbean,
which is, I don't know who the fuck is listening to there, but what is it called again?
Podbean.
Shout out to our Podbean listeners, our real ones.
Fuck yeah.
and our iTunes Music guys, or Apple Podcasts instead. It really comes down to the people who make this shit happen, and regardless whether it be one listener or 200 or 10,000, I mean, at the end of the day, we're doing this because we love talking about albums, movies, comics, people who kill people and put them in shopping carts, and all the fun things in the world. So
I love two of those things.
shopping carts and
come on, get the second one.
And pod beams.
Yes, this guy. This is why we do this show, man.
It's the only reason.
It's the last episode, so
damn, bro. Why you gotta bring me down? I was on my peak of happiness, and you just
fuck.
So, but okay, coming to a base, right? Coming to a base of it all. What do you think about this person that killed the people in the shopping carts? And do you think that this person that had died in New York City was part of the same Anthony Eugene Robinson?
Well, I mean, immediately before you brought it up, I already questioned it of like, are there copycats involved? What's going on at this?
Yeah.
And the fact that there's already a body found, but this guy's in prison already,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so sus. I'm already waiting for like the fucking TV or movie to come out for this.
The
like,
Hulu special.
Yeah. Because it's just, this is so bizarre.
It
a
is.
shopping cart?
Yeah,
I'm
man.
still on that.
Yeah.
Why? Why? And the
honestly.
fact that he's primarily killing women too, it's just, I'm always so like interested by that kind of stuff of like, something must have really gone on in this person's life where it's like, he fucking hates women.
It was one bad shopping trip he made and it was over. He was like, I swear to God.
Some girl must have like broke his heart at a Target and he was like, fuck women, Target, and shopping carts.
Simultaneously.
All those three things, it created the Triforce for him. And it was like, I need to take down all three.
And then the copycats were like, we got you, brother. We got you. And when I was reading the articles, I seen the pictures of the woman that he murdered, right? I didn't think they would put up their pictures, but I mean, the CNN, it was intense to see their faces because I was like, damn, bro, chill. I'm trying to talk about this on the podcast. I'm not trying to know who you are for real, And I mean, it's insane. It's scary. And it just, we put up in a supplementary, like, would you feel safer if, what was the group you mentioned on New York City subways?
The Guardian Angels.
The Guardian Angels, who've been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I haven't seen any of them on the train.
I've never seen them.
Yeah, but apparently, for those who missed last episode, you should go and listen to it. There was
don't even repeat yourself. Go listen to last episode, then come back.
That wasn't me. I didn't say go listen to that episode. They were willing to help people on the train because they think that basically vigilantes could prevent them deeming themselves vigilantes could prevent crimes that other cops wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I put a poll up on who would feel safer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people answered yes. I'm the only one that answered no.
What the fuck?
I answered about I answered Because I did it. I wouldn't have to say I put up the poll, yes, but I still have the right to answer my own question.
You're an idiot.
Go answer that poll. Fuck you. Well, the reason
Can I just say, there was a time when Frankie once had a conversation with himself with the podcast Instagram.
We'll put up in this supplementary.
He literally shared a post from the podcast page to his personal page and responded from his personal page, "Fire shit," or something like that.
You gotta hype yourself up in this world. Ain't nobody gonna do it for you but yourself.
The podcast page liked it and said thanks. He had a conversation with himself.
Check our social media so you can see me hyping myself up because sometimes I need that. Anyways, with the guardian angel, right? The reason I answered no is because I feel like, well, yeah, they can help us if they wanted to, right? But what if one of them went rogue and said, fuck these guys? Like, you know, I'm gonna go on the W real quick.
But why?
And I'm gonna fuck shit up. Because why not? Joker exists, man.
But like, why would you join the Guardian Angels if you're just gonna go rogue? What the fuck?
Why would you join the cops when you're gonna brutalize a bunch of minorities?
This isn't an anime. You can't. There's no deep betrayal going on in the Guardian Angels.
I don't know, man. They wear berets. Anybody wearing berets in the United States is weird.
I feel like you should trust anyone with a beret. If you have a beret, they're probably like the perfect type of weird where they're like, they follow all the right rules.
I think K-pop fans have the right to wear berets, and that's about it.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Did they wear berets?
They wear OD berets, bro.
I don't know how I feel about berets now.
Oh yeah, you know, the fake cops, let's give them berets. Red berets be at that. But music fans can't wear berets. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about you, Javi.
I feel like if cops wore berets, I feel pretty safe.
I'd disrespect them.
Nah,
I disrespect every cop that would walk into any place I'm in.
If I saw a cop with a beret, I'd shed a tear, give him a hug, and salute him. Say thank you for your service.
All right, next podcast I'm wearing a beret.
Nice.
I'm dead ass wearing a beret, Javi.
Dude.
I'm going to order it today.
Okay.
I would do it right now, but I don't want to distract myself.
I bet you won't. I bet you won't.
I will. I will. Watch. Now, next A.M.C. section video, Frankie's wearing a beret. My word here. All right, Link. Javi's dog. Javi's dog is Link. Shout out to him. He's one of the most smartest dogs in the whole world.
He's all right.
Anyway, yeah. So realistically, this guy is in jail or prison actually, because we know the definitions out here.
Do you?
Now I do. Actually, today is when I found out because like myself, what I expected you not to know, I actually didn't know. So.
Damn.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it just sucks that this happened in Brooklyn on top of the hammer thing. On top, that was a crazy beehole, by the way. Crazy beehole we just went down. Berets,
seriously,
and, you know. But when it comes down to the Brooklyn, you know, murder of this person in a shopping cart, I mean, it's gross and it just makes New York City scarier. And like you said, it feels like we're going back in time rather than forward in terms of safety. Which, yeah. Again, I always find it ridiculous that we think it's cool to deem, I mean, not cool, but keep this image of New York City being this frantic, hectic neighborhood and, you know, we're crude over here. So, yeah, that's New York City. And it's like, no, bro, like, I'd rather a safer place in the world and somewhere where we don't have to worry about taking the train, especially being like a woman on a train at like 1 a.m. in the morning. You know, you don't feel safe. You know, yeah, like anybody in general. But
what do you have to prove, Max? Like, honestly, what are you trying to prove? That you're trying to move in from Minnesota, coming into New York City, trying to act all tough and shit. You want shit smeared on your face?
I hope we just dissuaded some guy named Max from committing some crime right now. He's about to do some crazy shit, and he just said that. He's like, he just sheds a tear himself. He takes off his beret, and he's like, man, fuck that crime. So. All right, I've officially figured out my topics, but we're going to move on to topic 2 now.
Topic dos.
Tópico dos. And one thing I wanted to talk about is Congress nearing passing. And Congress is about to pass an anti-lynching bill after more than a century of failed attempts. This is a lot of the information I got was from Axios. That's a news journalist company. And first of all, the sentence I just said sounds crazy. You know, like you're talking about lynching and a bill that's supposed to, you know, support anti-lynching and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, the fact that this article came out yesterday as well. So it's just incredible. And what's supposed to happen is essentially they passed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act of 2022.
Emmett Till Lynching Act of 2022.
Anti-Lynching Act.
Anti-Lynching Act.
And it's basically a bill that's designed to designate lynching as a federal hate crime.
Okay.
Because for some reason it wasn't already. Even though our country definitely shows traces of that being a terrible thing that's happened to not only black people, but from what I learned, also Mexican Americans. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happened to Asian Americans or anybody that isn't a white person, or even white people, just because humans are that fucked up. Yeah. But, you know, obviously there is a problem of racism in this country that is very true. The house...
You really got a theme going on this episode.
Oh, man, trust me. And that's why I can't believe we got out to such a funny start, because it's going to get a little more deeper and complicated. And I wanted to really be ready for this episode. Even up until before we shot, I was here writing shit down early at work. You know, I was trying to get like real information on this, and I didn't want to slack on this episode. You know, and the shopping cart is a very interesting story, but I kind of wanted to go down, I won't say a serious route. We'll take it how we do, because we don't gotta, you know, go down any, you know, mood that we designate to ourselves. But I just, you know, take it as it will. So
yeah, take it with a grain of salt,
or pepper. What the fuck does that saying mean, bro? Grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. What does that mean?
Just like you imagine the advice or whatever opinion is the grain of salt itself. Okay, that's how you should perceive it as. Just
very minor and unimportant.
Like, I mean, not unimportant, but just like, you know, like
it's you're calling anti-lynching non-important, Javi.
Whoa!
You said it.
I didn't say nothing. All right, boy.
Let's move on. We'll take it with the grain of salt. Anyway, the House, sponsored by Representative Bobby L. Rush, which is a Democrat, it passed by 422 votes to 3.
Okay.
Or I can't believe anybody would vote against that. And according to the bill, if a crime could be prosecuted as a lynching when a conspiracy to commit a hate crime, it results in let me say that again. A crime could be prosecuted as a lynching when a conspiracy to commit a hate crime results in death or seriously bodily injury, right? Since 1918, Javi, Congress has had more than 200 attempts to pass the anti-lynching legislation in response to the vicious lynchings of black men and Mexican Americans.
God damn.
Bro, 200 attempts.
200.
Since 1918. It's crazy.
Like, what the fuck?
I mean, come on, man. Like groups like the NAACP and LULAC, they called on Congress to pass this anti-lynching legislation and to stop the violence and persecute mobs who often face no criminal charges. So I guess one of the complicated things about this whole thing is that if one person gets lynched, if one person gets lynched, if there's a multiple amount of people there, who's going to get charged? You know, who can you point the finger to?
Okay.
And again, I think about New York City where there's so much cameras and cell phones and all that stuff. But realistically, in a little town where there's not really that much going on, you know, you ever watch movies and there's a sheriff with a shotgun who just goes to like, you know, a little area by themselves.
Yeah.
And they have to handle the crime by themselves, and backup is only, you know, miles and miles away.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? So if you were to be a victim of this lynch crime, you know, like it'd be hard to get any help. You know, so that's terribly scary. And I just really still can't believe that 200 attempts, bro.
From 1918, that's pretty wild. Like, why? I would love to know the reasons why you would vote against this.
Yeah. And I have no idea why somebody would vote against this, but I'm sure there are a lot of racist reasons, some regular reasons, some complex, you know, law reasons or whatever. But at the end of the day, that shit is crazy. And one thing I wanted to walk down towards is Emmett Till.
Okay.
Because I mean the act is, you know, named after him, right? And just to get like a little more in depth with this conversation, when I asked you a while back about Emmett Till, you weren't familiar with the story, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, to no blame of you, I mean, it's one of those things where after a while that story isn't told as much because terribly enough, more crimes happen to black people so often that these names like George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Emmett Till, and forward, I mean, they just kind of overwhelm people with just sad stories and victims.
It's just kind of hard to keep up, honestly.
Exactly. So it really is that. And not to be too preachy, but imagine we held the same voice for those that are, brutalized by police, such as, immigrants who are deported by ICE. We would run down a list that's endless.
Yeah.
Or those kids in cages and stuff. We just don't have enough space in our brains to be doing all that.
Yeah.
And I know it gets real serious, but because, we weren't aware and I informed you a little, but not even just like that. Just I wanted to share that with you, what happened to Emmett Till and stuff. Just because, look, I'm no activist or somebody who's trying to always push for progression every second of my life. I think real activists do that every single day, every moment they have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we just have to acknowledge things in the world and
at least be conscious of it.
Exactly. And if there's a moment to learn, take it in so you can learn. And that's why I wanted to walk down what Emmett Till was for maybe not the audience that's listening right now, but hopefully an audience that's listening maybe 5 months from now or 10 years from now, anybody. Mm. If Spotify don't take our shit down, Joe Rogan. So what happened to Emmett Till was that in 1955, after being accused of flirting with a white woman, her name is Carolyn Bryant, who still might be alive today.
Okay.
Emmett Till was accused of flirting with her. Emmett Till was 14 years old at the time, and because of this supposed flirting, he was beaten to death by Carolyn's husband, Ray, and his half-brother, J.W.
Fuck.
Yeah, man. Emmett Till was a black boy, 14 years old, visiting family in Mississippi at the time. So he wasn't even from there. He was just visiting family.
Man.
And the two men who were white, they were acquitted of their crimes because
they're white.
Because they're white, and the whole jury was white. And after the trial, they confessed to killing Emmett in an interview with Look magazine. After that, they just disappeared from the public eye. So nobody ever really got to talk to them.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So what, they never saw time or anything?
It's kind of the double jeopardy thing. So you can't really be tried for the same case twice.
Fuck.
And it gets interesting because I'm going to tell you about something else. But that's pretty much what it is. Like, I think, what's his name? Kyle Rittenhouse, my favorite person in the whole world. I don't think he can be tried again for that unless there's like evidence that would deem it possible or justified. Mm-hmm. So, but ultimately, like, you can't be, so it sucks. And again, at the time, they were acquitted so quickly because of the white jury and just the times,
Yeah.
Which is a terrible way to put it.
Can I just say I feel like getting beaten to death is such a savage way to like kill someone. Like it's so disgusting using your bare hands to like really just fucking bring someone to death.
Yeah. It's one of those things where the action itself is timeless. It will keep going on forever, ever. And the hate within, like even at war, you shoot people with guns from so far away. And like in Russia and Ukraine right now, when you blow somebody up from a plane miles away, it's still disgusting. Yeah, but it's one thing to really just go up to somebody and stab them to death, or like you said, beat them to death, and make sure that their last breath happens throughout the process of you mashing them into non-existence. So it's a real terrible thing. Later on in the book, The Blood of Emmett Till, which came out in 2017. Carolyn, the woman who was accused Emmett Till of catcalling her, she confessed to lying about what Emmett said that day.
What the fuck?
She said that he didn't say anything to her, nor did he touch her in any way.
What the fuck?
Yeah. After this came out, the DOJ, Department of Justice, they reopened the case, but it was then again closed in December 2021. It was closed because they were unable to prove that Carolyn had lied. Now, that may sound confusing because she said that he never did what he did, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the justice system continues to show its imperfections. Because when they asked Carolyn about what she said, she denied and said that she denied that she ever said that she ever recanted her testimony, right?
Okay.
Timothy, the person who was writing the book, The Blood of Emmett Till, he recorded the whole conversation he had with Carolyn, meaning he still has the recording. But in court, he couldn't produce the tape without he couldn't produce the tape with the recantation on it. Basically, her saying that he didn't do anything, Emmett Till. And his assistant also transcribed the interview, and it also was missing her saying that he never did anything to her.
Sus.
Super sus, and it's one of those things where this is my loose interpretation of what happened. I guess in the moment when she was confessing to it, she wasn't aware that it would later be used in court, meaning that you can't take that proof and put it in court because it's not justified in that way.
Because it's like not on the record.
Yeah,
or
it's
anything
like kind of tricking
that.
you into admitting guilt without you knowing this will later be used in a court of law, without your authority.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much protecting this lady with the law,
Fuck.
And
Man.
and I want people who are listening to this, like, if you really don't know what happened to Emmett Till, I just want you to Google it because it's not hidden. It's going DuckDuckGo, Google, Yahoo, whatever the fuck you want. Bing. I don't know. Ask the homeless person next to the Wi-Fi tower. Ask him to the Obama phone. Just look up Emmett Till's face after the whole beating, and look up how that face looked after he was beat to death, and just think of this moment where all those people got away with it. All those people got away with it. So right now it's believed that Caroline is still alive, right? And right now she should be 88 years old. And it was said that during the interview, she was already really sick, so she could be dead. And fuck her, But the grocery store where Emmett allegedly, catcalled Carolyn, is still alive and well. Like the store,
the spot,
yeah. And the owners don't want to sell it at all. And in August 2018,
did they make a lot of money?
In August 2018, I think the journalist, the journal, whatever it's called, the Clarion Ledger, reported that the selling price of the building was a whopping $4 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the building is in like trembles right now. Like, it's not even that
like
highly
well
functional
kept or anything.
Yeah, it's just the fact that they want to sell it for $1 million. I mean, for me, I would just want to burn that shit down. I would not want to. I know people would have other ideas and maybe start a foundation there and this and that. I say fuck that building. I say that building is cursed. Put a photo of Emmett Till's face there so everybody passes it can see what happened there.
Put a statue there.
Yeah, something. But there's during the article I was reading, I didn't really include it into here. I was just kind of, I didn't really seem that interesting. But there was somebody who said that when she was younger, she put that photo on her table so her whole family can see, and she was like, "That's the reason I moved out the South, because she never want to be a part of that ever again, or be part of that history, or be put into that trouble, or It's just a really, really scary thing, and
that's fucked up, man.
Yeah. And back to my thing with the whole names of black men who have been done wrong by the system, and Mexicans who have been done wrong by the immigration system and all that stuff. I'm not trying to like do a versus thing or this and that. Like, I do think there's hostility between like black people and Mexicans that's unspoken of, and this is not to point no fingers or nothing. I just think that there's a very thwarted, type of way of mindset almost, where, it could be that, or like just a whole bunch of cultures being like, well, who's more important? I'm more important, or this is happening to you. And it's just not that. It's just that we're all, especially minorities, are just put in this section where white people aren't,
It's like you're either white or you aren't.
Exactly. And those who aren't are going to face the injustices and like unequal opportunities and just these really sad things that you just can't talk about in terms of white people as often. It's not to say that no white person has ever dealt with, inhumanity, but it's just too frequent that it happens to a minority in terms of ratio.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are there to just kind of prove it, and like we have history, which will continue to repeat itself.
Yeah, yeah. I learned from that. But actually, this is a perfect time to transition to my next topic. But I kind of wanted to get your feedback off all that because I know that got pretty deep. But again, just speaking about this anti-lynching bill, which of course like will hopefully make these things a hate crime. Duh, it should. What the? I don't know why the fuck it isn't. But it just shows how stupid our country is sometimes with. I mean, most times with things like this, how sensitive they can be and how offensive it is from moving Emmett Till forward and behind, So what are your thoughts on all this, man?
I mean, it's definitely just kind of this, it just kind of comes down to pride almost again, where it's like, what are they trying to prove that they want this to still be a thing? Where it's like, why would you want to do this? And it just seems so inhumane. And I think there's got to be something like psychological going on with the people where it's like they really think it's like, no, we need this. We need lynching. Because the fact that this has been going on for 200 attempts since 1918 is ridiculous.
Yeah, man.
The fact that it took this long, what the fuck?
It's disgusting. I mean, it's just a mentality that's phased out and never was true. You know, obviously people saw wrong with it, and I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, can you imagine how scary that is, man? It just.
Yeah. And it's like you pointed out too, that it's not only happening to black people, but it's also happening to like Mexican people. And we can only imagine like
anybody else
to other minorities and things like that. And so it really makes me want to take a deeper look of like what else is happening to other minorities in this same sort of field of awfulness of like how badly are like Asians like dealing with lynching or things like that, because they got a lot of shit back in the day,
or even now with the spike in Asian hate crimes that the people are saying are happening, or when they Putin on the mind when they put Japanese people in what is it, like the camps because of Pearl Harbor and all that moving forward, like that's still a thing that we definitely did as a country. And even George Takei from Star Trek, he was in Takai. Sorry, George Takei. He was in one of those camps when
every
he was
like
younger.
Star Trek fan is like,
fuck Frankie. What? Fuck this guy. I know I'm mad at lynching, but fuck Frankie. It's the guy, bitch. Sorry. But he was put in one of those camps when he was younger. Did you know that? Yeah, isn't that fucking crazy? Star Trek's a fun show. And I wanted to mention, like, you ever seen Django?
Yeah.
First of all, great movie. I know it goes back and forth with all this stuff, and it's a great movie. But one of the most powerful scenes that like really got me. I mean, there's so much to pick from,
Yeah.
But it's the one, and spoiler alert, for all these motherfuckers that should have already watched the movie, but we'll put it in there. Spoiler. There's a scene where it's Jamie Foxx walking into the room where Leonardo DiCaprio is, right? And basically the two white owners of the slaves have their slaves fight each other. And you can see, basically it's like if me and you both have slaves and we're white disgusting assholes, right?
Yeah.
And we have these really like fine-bodied men that are gonna fight one another just for the fuck of it, just like fighting dogs, and they just start beating each other to the death, and we're watching it just like as a show, just as our entertainment, And I think at the final end of it, where the one black guy kills the other black guy, the one slave kills the other slave, and he just murders him, It was just terrible, like absolutely terrible. It's like one of those scenes where it disgusted me, and it made me so sad, and it made me so grateful that it's just a movie. But to really realize that this shit really went down, or who knows whether or not it was exaggerated true for this or that, but it's very true. And
I mean, definitely the fact that I would imagine that like slave owners definitely had their slaves fight each other like that. So, it's fiction, but it's based off of reality still.
Or even how like even slave owners who had slaves had their kids breastfed by black women, and this I was taught this in a class that was sociology of family, right? Okay. A lot of people think this is a throughout the way to look at things, but if you mattered it, I was taught it by a professor, so fuck the system of education. And what I was taught is that during those times, and I forget which time period in particular, ultimately, there was a moment in time where black women had more freedom than white women, even though they were experiencing segregation and slavery, all that stuff. And I know that sounds like a complex statement. How are you considered a slave, but have more freedom than a white woman, right?
Yeah.
Or this and that. Reason B was that white women couldn't work on the fields. They couldn't work outside. They couldn't do this. They were kind of meant to just stay home and just, they wouldn't even take care of the baby. The black woman was, So black women were allowed to go outside, work on the field, this and that. Things like women like would want to vote and stuff like that more and be outside and be considered more than just an object in the house. I know again, it's a very weird way to say things and stuff like that. And my professor who taught me this was a black woman. It wasn't not just coming out some random person's mouth, and it wasn't
some white dude.
Yeah, I mean, even then, truth be told, if it's education coming out somebody's mouth, as long as they have a brain who studied it for real and they have teeth and a mouth and functioning body parts, it doesn't really matter.
Functioning body parts.
No, their legs don't work, but no, you can't teach history. Your legs don't work. But no, seriously, anybody should be allowed to teach as long as they're getting the facts right.
Yeah.
That does not make sense. Like if I tell you 2 + 2 is 4, does it matter?
It's fish, Frankie. It's fish.
Yeah, man. Assholes out there who think it's 4. Just take that as you will. Take it with a grain of salt. But Yeah, I mean, there was something I saw, and whether it be right or wrong, fuck you if you get hurt about it. I really don't care, because it's just an interesting topic. And the reason I think about that is just, I mean, this country has so much disgusting history and so much great history, and the thing is that we're referring a couple of things, and somebody on the opposite spectrum will be looking at our disgusting viewpoints of history, and that'll be their great viewpoints of history. AKA, we think slavery is bad. They think that shit is great.
Yeah.
And, it's just sad because they're opposites of shit.
Yeah.
So, woo. and yeah, man. So, it's still the United States of America, and
USA.
Biden. Who's the next president, Javi?
Oh, our next president?
Trump is definitely Trump.
I definitely think it's gonna be. I hate to say it. I think it's gonna be Brian. That's why I don't like him, because I know he's gonna win.
Probably. There is a congressman who I know is gonna be in the running, but I just definitely don't know his name because I could care less. I just think Trump's gonna have a good chance. So I'm not a MAGA supporter or anything.
Guys,
shut up.
I'm afraid. I'm scared, guys. I don't feel safe in my home.
Take out my red hat real quick. I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter, but it'd be great if once again America was made great. I'm just kidding. Fuck you, Juan. Think I fucks with you just got Mexican? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so many people are like,
they're like, yo, I don't know if Franky's joking right now. just take it easy, man. Just take it easy. It's all fun and games. 2024. I'm just saying.
Next episode, can you come in a red beret that says "Make America Great Again"?
It's gonna say "Make berets great again."
Even fucking better. Can we make berets that say that?
They're already being manufactured, Javi, by the thousands.
I doubt there are berets being made that have "Make Berets Great Again."
Google it.
We could do that.
I'm 100% sure there are berets that say, like, even before this conversation, I'm sure somebody was like, "We got to bring the beret back."
No way.
Try saying that 5 times fast.
Which one?
We gotta make America great again. I'm just kidding. We gotta bring the beret back.
Bring the beret back.
Damn, I got you right now. Ready? I've done this before, but I'm gonna do it again just to show how perfect I am at this. Ready? I just lick my lips. Bring the beret back. 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 You're welcome. You're welcome.
Was that 4 or 5?
It was 5, motherfucker. And if it wasn't,
felt like that was 4.
I'm not doing it again.
I don't know, man. When I edit this, I'm gonna call you out for this shit.
I hope so. I hope it was 5. So anyway, so just to like, finalize this anti-lynching stuff, right? I was saying that, we have a shitload of history to talk about in this country. And my opinion should be taught in schools, should be taught in certain areas, Think about Mouse that we talked about. If you have missed that episode, definitely a great talk. We have it on YouTube and Spotify. It's referring to Art Spiegelman, who wrote a comic book Mouse. You want to tell the people more about it?
It's just a pretty gruesome tale of what happened to Art Spiegelman's father during the Holocaust as a Jewish man, and his mother as well. And it's just a pretty gruesome tale of like how bad it was during that time.
Yeah, man, and it's a great read, great quick read too. And I mean, I'll tell you this, man. I've seen shows and episodes, documentaries, a lot that have covered, the Holocaust, and I've gotten informed on it. Inglourious Basterds was a fun movie. I won't say more so. It wasn't really an informative movie. It was just a fun movie. And I know it's hard to say fun when you're referring to the Holocaust and all that stuff, but
Tarantino, man,
what a fucking god, because he killed that shit. He killed that shit, and Brad Pitt and all these motherfuckers killing Nazis. So it was a great watch.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. I definitely said it bad, but a lot of these things that I've watched, even The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, like I know everybody goes crazy with that movie. Name one scene aside the last scene. Because I know you can't. I know you dead ass. All you know is that you cried at the end because of the last scene, and you have no idea what happened at the whole movie. Don't lie. Don't go watch it and be like, actually, I know what the fuck. Because you don't. And I may just speaking of myself right now, but I know there's motherfuckers that don't, because that movie's whack. I think that movie's whack because that's the only scene I remember. Go fuck that movie. Read Mouse instead, because I feel like I've learned more about, those times, and I'm not saying in a whole, big way.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I got a lot of information about specific things that I never knew. And I don't, that book, comic book, let me say, has been, given a lot of genres, like some of it like fiction, nonfiction, this and that. Like it's not really one certain thing. I think it's because it's kind of, I don't know the word for it, but it's when you tell a story that somebody else told you. So it's like a hand-me-down of a story.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a memoir in a way because it's definitely written through Art Spiegelman's perspective.
Of his father and stuff like that. So who's to say that he may have been right or wrong about certain things and this and that? Not to say I believe it,
Mm-hmm.
It's just we look at some old people as senile and stuff like that. So some of the things may be exaggerated or not because it's not technically, documented history, even though this person lived through it, so... I mean, who's to say? But I still think that if you want to learn something about the Holocaust, just really quickly pick up that book, which is banned in Tennessee's education curriculum. And stupid as fuck. And actually, why I wanted to move forward with my third topic, which is the idea of race theory not being allowed to be taught in the United States, particularly in Mississippi.
Okay.
So, in Mississippi, on January 21st, 2022, there was a handful of black lawmakers who walked out as Mississippi Senate passed an anti-critical race theory bill.
Interesting.
So as this bill is being passed, I would believe about 6, but let me actually find that number to be. It was
what's the fucking number, Frankie?
My fucking research, bro. This is my last topic.
What are the numbers, Mason?
Let's just say 6. But a couple of lawmakers passed by, and they walked out in protest because it was a 32-2 vote. 2 white Democrats voted against the bill, and the black congressman just walked out, so they didn't vote at all. But they passed with a 32-2 vote to ban critical race theory in schools.
Wow.
Now, it's very interesting because Senate Bill 2113, which is the bill that they're talking about, doesn't really technically address race theory. It would technically forbid public schools in the state from forcing students to agree that any sex, race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin is inherently superior or inferior.
Okay.
So, I mean, already I disagree with that. I mean, there's definitely advantages that people have already just because their skin is white off the bat. And that's the truth. If you don't think so based off the countless amounts of history in the world, I mean, just look at interactions in the daily world. Just literally, I mean, this is a very famous study that's happened in the past, and it's disgusting and sad. Not disgusting because of a child's innocence, but what I'm trying to say is that a long time ago, and this will put in the supplementary because I think it's crucial, what they would do is they would give young black children, particularly women, right? I mean, girls. And they would hand them a doll portraying a white child and a doll portraying a black child. And the study of the, trials, they would ask the black child, they would be like, which one's the ugly one? And the black young child would point at the black doll and say, that's the ugly one.
Interesting.
It's sad. It's sad, bro. Just YouTube that shit. It's real. It's super real,
That really makes me think.
Can you imagine? Like we talked about, on the podcast, I forget to what, but how innocence is, obviously part of a child's coming up. But when you think about that, man, it's terrible, and how the price of a black Barbie doll would be less than now it isn't. Now it's the opposite and stuff like that. I still think that has a lot to do with guilt of, companies trying to be like, this and that, like not really sure what they have to say on the matter. Just know that the more popular and correct manner is this, which is a higher selling point. I know, take that as you will, but what I'm trying to say.
They have to kind of play by the sales.
Exactly, rather than really change the culture of the real ways of society, and because sometimes speaking out gets your sales down. Yeah, and that goes a lot. That goes a lot with a lot of things here. So, talking about that bill, basically that's what it addresses. And I mean, just to repeat it, what do you think about the bill that would forbid public schools in the state from forcing students to agree that any sex, race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin is inherently superior or inferior?
I mean, it's just kind of stupid. Yeah, it's just like to sort of ignore that is just kind of ignorant.
Yeah.
It just to ignore that is to ignore the human inequality that goes on in everyday life, and it's trying to paint this picture where this kumbaya picture where we're all like already happy and equal. This idea of like, why would you want to question it?
Yeah, about a white male Catholics are probably like, what the fuck, man? Like, you can't do that. You know,
they're like, what? What do you mean that we have better opportunities?
What are you trying to say? What are you?
Whoa! Just because I'm white, you think I'm gonna get more opportunities?
I want my pizza with less racism. Hey,
maybe.
Ajita. All that. It was 14 black state senators who walked out. You know,
okay.
Because of course I ain't think you agree, and I'm not trying to like implement this ideology that to automatically think that you agree. I just think that, come on, bro, we're both Hispanic, and we a long time ago I took my dad out to go eat steaks, right? Mm-hmm. Went to Peter Luger's, which is a delicious steak, Brooklyn, very delicious, right? Like they bring you out the steak and it's like and they're like, hey, how you want your steak? And like, hey, I'm Peter Luger myself. Earth Mind Matter, Italian's least favorite podcast. Hey, what do we do? We just try to portray you and how you sound. Hey,
we're all fucking Earth Mind Matter. We're talking about all the things that's wrong with America and why we're so fucking racist.
Oh man, bro, we gotta get an Italian on the show. he's gonna come on. What the fuck? What the fuck was that, man? Like chill. So the bill was titled Critical Race Theory, but technically speaking, in any other text for the bill, it doesn't mention critical race at all.
Interesting.
So that's why it gets so complex and everything. But I still think that why would lawmakers disagree with this when statistically there's just so much there to show that some people have advantages and don't, and maybe money could be a thing about it or this and that, but it could just be very well that they don't want to taint their own racist images with the trueness of America's history, which is disgusting. Yeah, especially when it comes towards black people and all other minority groups.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of sounds like they're just trying to ignore it. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to hide it. Like they don't want to think about it.
And it's like Christopher Columbus and shit, all that stuff where, you know what Christopher Columbus did at one point, man. This is first of all,
did he fuck a pig?
I hope so. I hope so. Shout out to Kodak Black. What Christopher Columbus did is that he was from Spain or some shit, Europe. Let's just say Europe, right? Europe. And when he went over there to the indigenous people that technically discovered America first, whatever you believe, if the truth, one of the ways, aside from his diseases that he brought from, his original homeland, is that he told the people, he was like, hey, if you don't listen to what I'm saying and you don't do what I say, I'm going to bring on a terrible like storm on you, or like no sunlight. No, he said, I'm going to bring on no sunlight for you guys if you don't listen to what I say. Now, what he had knowledge of is the timing of eclipses. Okay. So he very wisely used that knowledge to his advantage and said, I mean, you don't want to listen to me? All right, fuck off. I'm going to take away the sun. And so when the people, they were like, nah, you playing, man. This white man playing. And and then when the eclipse happened, that's what happened. People were like, oh shit, this guy's for real. And I know that's a silly way to put it. Yeah, what the fuck? No. Because all the Italians he but yeah, I mean, it's just a strategic way of just dominating a certain culture of people and way of living. So I mean, it's very interesting, and I don't know, man. I just think it's sad that we don't move forward in terms of education, which is the most important thing for the youth, for the kids. Gotta throw that out. Yeah, and I mean, there's more to this article, but ultimately, like, it just seems like we're again taking 2 steps backwards rather than moving forward at all. I mean, there's a lot of progression, but it's just like hoping New York State would vote blue when, of course, they will. You know, it's like, no, we don't want that for just New York State. We want that for everybody. And then, I'm not saying blue is better than red or red is better than blue. I think all that shit is stupid. I think that the fact that
I think blue's a pretty dope color.
whales. I like whales. I just think to categorize two people into two ideologies is just dumb. You know, I think there's multiple.
All I'm saying is,
Uh-huh.
when I look at the color red, I think of hell. That correlation is like, do you really want red? Like, honestly.
And you heard it here, folks. Javi believes in God. Anyway.
Whoa.
Javi believes in God. Javi believes in God. It's the truth.
Whoa. How dare you?
I forgot my original thought, but one of the things I thought that was very clever. This is kind of just useless information, but it was a conversation I had with one of my friends a long time ago, and he was like, "Well, I don't know if I believe in like heaven or hell or this and that, but I do believe in demons." And he said, just because I believe in demons, you know, you have to believe in the opposite, meaning that if you believe in demons, what else do you have to believe in?
Angels.
Yeah, right. And so I think angles. And I think that's a very interesting thought. And for whatever that it's applied, like if you believe in love, what you must believe in hate, you know? And I guess some racists could use it. Well, I have to believe in white. I don't believe in black, you know? So all that stupid shit. And I don't know. Just take that as you will, seriously, because I have no idea what the fuck I'm trying to say with that. But it's just a random thing. And so yeah, man. I do want to move on to one thing that's gonna drive us into the A.M.C section.
Okay.
But you know what the fuck is up, Javi? Just having a good ass time.
Yo, man.
Can we just say we got a special guest in the house, right? We got two special guests.
Yeah. So this is the first time we've had a live audience. Well, actually, literally the second time.
So fuck this guy. Right? You know what? Fuck, you're not even mention it. I'm kidding. Right now we have somebody literally here watching.
You know, the second time is more special because the first time there's always like growing pains to it.
It's like, do we really want this here? You know?
Yeah, it's like
I don't even remember the second time. It's like, literally, I don't. I'm so sorry.
It's like your first kiss.
I mean, the first time. I'm talking about who was here the first time. No, I remember. That's how.
Like, you think about it, your first kiss, it's kind of like, you don't know what you're doing, so it's kind of The first time you have sex, it's kind of like, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, stop trying to sexualize our guests. Trying to clap his cheeks right now.
Listen. All I'm saying is, this is my first time meeting this Jonathan guy. Jonathan, welcome.
Hey, say something for...
We're really out here, though.
And that's Jonathan right there, man. Hey, if y'all motherfuckers want to come watch the show, well, if we don't know you, it's going to be kind of awkward. But if we know you, we'd love for you to come and watch. Sorry, you were trying to go on a tangent with, you know when you fuck Jonathan, the third time it's all right.
All I was going to say.
But take it easy.
Hey, listen.
Forget about it.
Hey, listen, stop. All I'm trying to say is that the last time we were talking about Jonathan, I thought he was really fucking handsome. And now meeting him, he is. God damn.
He's a cool motherfucker, man. Yeah, it's a fun ass episode today. We are definitely going to be literally the Italians' least favorite podcast.
I mean, it's a good thing because it's the last episode.
Oh man, it is. Should we just do a whole bunch of the offensive accents?
Yo, they didn't let me know this part.
Should we just do all the offensive accents right now?
I mean, we could maybe bleep some stuff out.
No more bleep. We've had so much. Let's just do it, Javi. Let's just do it. So here's my impersonation of an Asian person. You know. Just kidding. I'm not doing it. All right. So moving on. So I sent you something earlier. It was a little script of the movie we're going to be talking about today. Yeah. Today's A.M.C section. We'll be announcing the title in a bit. But I wanted to move in with this, and you have it out yet, or the script?
Not yet, sir.
So let Javi take it out because he's unprepared as. I'm just kidding. We got time here. We got time here. Oh, actually, 1 second.
So tell me how these motherfuckers take a piss for 25 minutes.
So right now we're back.
We're back,
and we never left. What did we know? We never left.
Yeah, right? I just like to say that we're back sometimes because it just feels right. Yeah. You know,
we don't stop shooting this podcast for anything.
Yeah, we're always filming 24/7,
24/7, 365, no pee breaks. Nothing.
No pee.
We don't stop for nothing, Javi.
I'm like Kim Jong-un. I don't shit.
All right. All right. And so now we're at the AMC section, right? Kind of, but not really. And we're not gonna really discuss the movie just yet, even though recording has started. Yeah. So anyway, so we're back.
Yeah.
But again, we never went anywhere.
Nope.
We don't take breaks during the show. We don't use the bathroom. We
I
hold
don't
it in if
shit.
we have to. You don't shit. Who are you like?
I'm Kim Jong Un,
You're
motherfucker.
King Jong-un, motherfucker. Like, you don't give a fuck, bro. We're North Korea up in here. Just kidding. Fuck North Korea. And so we're at the AMC section, but we're kind of not, because before that, I wanted to do something a little different, something in the theme. We're in the movie section of our AMC section, and before we get into the actual movie itself, which we'll be talking about very shortly, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're already seeing what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like this movie hasn't been discussed so much. I mean, I think it's one of those where it always will be, no matter what, because of its intensity. But without further ado, like, I wanted to read like almost a section of the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's we're not gonna give no context, no nothing.
Can we get like a special effect going on, like for the video, where it's like a sparkle effect, where it's like fring?
Let's say 1, 2, 3.
Fring. A reading with Javi and Frankie.
Welcome to the audio version where you can't see it at all. But we'll put in the sound effect too, a little sparkle sound effect with the ring. But we'll also put up in the video. Thanks for the extra work, Javi. Nah, just kidding. Nah, they're fun. There's fun as fuck to do. But to get on with it and forward, because you're watching this video, you want to know what the fuck we're saying, right? I wanted to read something with Javi because I felt that before we introduce this movie, and for the listeners on the podcast, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and all that stuff, I know they're like, can you just do it already? So without further ado, we're going to read a part, and it goes like this. This is a conversation being had at a dinner table between a family. Okay.
The irony is that most of the stores that were destroyed during the riots were destroyed by black people.
That's stupid, though. Why trash your own neighborhood?
Well, that's my point. It's an irrational act. It's like an expression of rage by people who feel neglected.
I don't buy that for a minute. Calling a riot an irrational expression of rage, that's such a cop-out. It's opportunism at its worst. A bunch of people grabbing any excuse they can find to go out and loot a store. The fact that these people ripped off stores in their own communities reflect that these people don't have no respect for the law, and certainly no concept of community or civic responsibility.
Wait a minute. White people commit crimes against white people too.
But they're not offing each other in record numbers all over America. Look at the statistics, for Christ's sakes. 1 in every 3 black males is in some phase of the correctional system. Is that a coincidence? Or do these people have a racial commitment to crime?
Maybe it says something about the prejudice in the judicial system.
It's you.
If you want to talk about criminal statistics, you might want to take a look at social inequalities that produce them.
Yeah. You know what? That's exactly what I hate. You're taking one thing and calling it something else and alleviating the responsibility that these people have for their own actions. It's like saying it's not a riot, it's rage. It's not crime, it's poverty. It's just nonsense. It's bullshit. It's exactly what happened in this trial too, because the media twisted things around so people focus on the cops, whether they get convicted and whether Rodney King's civil rights have been violated. Everybody's lost sight of Rodney King himself. The guy's a multiple felon by his own admission. He's high as a goddamn kite, driving 120 miles an hour down the highway. He gets pulled over by a bunch of cops, and he attacks them. He attacked police officers, bottom line, and he walked.
And there's some yahoo who turns the camera halfway through, so all we see is him hitting him.
Powell and Son winding and cracking him with the billy club, and Breezenose kick him in the back of the skull, and people are going, oh, this poor guy who attacked 4 cops, and those cops end up on the stand defending themselves for using absolutely standard textbook self-defense procedure.
I don't think the tapes showed that all.
And what, you're an authority, Ma?
Murray, what do you think? I don't think that the police use their clubs rather excessively.
Who are you to say what's excessive? I think it was totally appropriate. They're in a better position to make that call than you are. In fact, we as a society grant cops a certain amount of authority to make those calls because we acknowledge that their job is difficult and dangerous, you know. Unfortunately, very few people respect authority. And that's the scene. And I mean, the scene goes forward and it gets more intense and more vulgar and really crude. And by now, for again the listeners, because the YouTube people are understanding that what we're already talking about is the movie American History X.
American History X.
This is a movie directed by Tony Kaye, starring Edward Norton, most famously.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I mean, it's a roller coaster of a movie.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very serious movie. I'm going to straight up say that when I was, I would say in middle school or something like that,
Okay.
much younger than now, back in the beautiful days. But in all jokes aside, I knew this movie for I won't call it infamous because I think it's just a very profound scene of we'll get into who in particular. Basically a white man gets a black man, and after shooting him once, he grabs him, puts him to the curb, opens his mouth open, places it on the curb, and then stomps his head into the curb, which just ends up killing him.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think from what that is in history, it's called curbing, which happened a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It might be called something else, but it's just terrible.
I've just heard it called curb stomping.
Curb stomping or whatever. And it's absolutely disgusting and sad. And from when I was younger and I saw that scene, I mean, that's why I never watched they show his foot going forward, but I never watched the forwarding result of the scene, which is the aftermath, because it's so vulgar after watching it just now. And it's terrible. The movie came out in 1998, and again, it's directed by Tony Kaye, featuring Edward Norton and a whole bunch of other people who I feel are just not as interesting to the role right now. Maybe you have some facts, but I don't.
I don't, but I mean, I will just say that, like, pretty randomly, I thought this movie was directed by Spike Lee. I don't know why. I was like, this is a Spike Lee movie.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that, but I mean, admittedly, man, I picked this movie because I thought it was about Malcolm X.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because the X at the end, American History X. That's literally what I thought. So I was misled, and boy, did I just see a whole bunch of shit that I didn't expect. So, after watching this movie, which I've seen twice since, right? I took a very intense viewing of it the first time, and the second time I kind of watched it casually again with Beatrice. I said like, hey, let's watch this over, and let me take a little sip real quick. And ultimately, it's a very, very crazy movie. And before we get into the actual scenes of the movie, Edward Norton, which is a very interesting character, not only just in movies but outside, the film, he had a very weird but true input on the movie, which was that Tony Kaye had this movie done and completed, and it was down to like an hour and something's worth of cut. So that was the original cut of the movie.
All right.
And even before, when we were reading the script, I had to literally read off the captions of the movie and write it down.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that Edward Norton didn't like his original cut of the movie. Mind you, Edward Norton is an actor who plays the older brother Derek in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
What he ended up doing is making his own version of the movie himself, which led to a 2-hour ultimate cut, which is now the movie we all know.
Interesting.
So it's like, say you made a movie and it came out, and I was like, no, let me do something with it, and then I create my own version and I put it out. And the Writers Guild, which I guess is in charge of what's deemed who's and what can be put out based off what's created, they allowed Edward Norton's version to be released, even though Tony Kaye really debated it. And I mean, it turned out that Edward Norton's version was incredible, because it was.
Yeah.
Despite the horrors of this movie that it shows and portrays, first of all, it's just a movie, but there's very little things in the movie that seem unbelievable, in my opinion. Okay. So, I mean, he was also in the Hulk, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know. Just throwing a little fun fact.
You didn't know that?
I don't know. Yeah, and real quick,
I feel like that's what I mostly know.
I didn't know who the fuck that was, and I didn't know who Edward Norton was. But according, I saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast a little. He had a little, interview, and one thing he said is that when he was looking at the movie American History X, he felt that it should portray like a fellow on Macbeth. And he said to the director, take away all the drug plot that you wanted to put in and make it more so about rage destroying a person. A Shakespearean tragedy, but skinheads. That's how he wanted to move forward. And when he described being in the Hulk, he described it as Prometheus, which is the story of somebody who tried to steal fire from the gods for his people. But in the process, he burned himself and then was cursed forward. Basically trying to take the power of nature back out to the people and gets burned. So it's just I mean, the Hulk is a very, the way he speaks of it is somebody who has to control every aspect about them, like their heart rate and this and that. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's outside the fact of the American History X, but this is to say that Edward Norton did play around with people's scripts a lot. Like he wanted to put in a lot of himself in movies. I mean, and who's to say he was wrong after going forward from American History X? I mean, he was in Fight Club, which I've never seen.
You haven't seen Fight Club either? Holy shit.
I just know we're not supposed to talk about it.
What?
But I've never seen that. And I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff that he tried to include himself in. So yeah, I've never seen that. Hopefully we can do it on this podcast.
Oh my
which would be
God.
awesome. And essentially, now honestly going into the movie of American History X, it starts off with the black and white image, right?
Mhm.
Which the movie sways back and forth from black and white to, full color.
Originally I thought the whole movie was in black and
Me
white.
too. And I was thrown off by it. I was like, whoa. Like I didn't really appreciate it. I was like, a modern movie that makes itself just black and white. And, modern 1998 is pretty, modern to me compared to like actual black and white movies. We talked about it last time on the podcast. It's just as movies which had to be black and white and which movies, chose to be black and white. Like the Black Mirror episode or other recent movies and stuff. So with this, I was like, damn, I really hope this is in black and white because it just seems too modern to be so, but it definitely shows later on that it is an interchangeable movie in terms of imagery. So,
it's just kind of a visual language that whenever it's black and white, it's a flashback or the past.
Yes. And the way it ultimately starts out is Danny, who is one of the main characters in the movie, the younger brother of the person we'll talk about later. He's told that he needs to rewrite his paper for his school in Venice Beach, right? The Venice Beach High School, because he wrote his paper on Adolf Hitler's book, Mein Kampf.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a book that Hitler wrote that's you can still buy it today in this day and age. Just kind of like Sun Tzu's, what is it? Art of War, right? It's one of those books where it's just, very famous. And I actually wanted to read Mein Kampf when I was younger, just because it seemed interesting, just to get a little perspective on, I don't care how evil or great you were. It's just time period. Like, it's like if Genghis Khan wrote some shit. That's a crazy motherfucker right there, so.
That's why I watch epic rap battles of history.
I've never seen that before. Really?
No, I'm fucking with you.
No, nice. Well, anyway, Danny, he's told that he shouldn't be writing a report for this. And the teacher reports him to the principal. And the principal says, hey, you got to rewrite this paper due tomorrow about your brother. And we're going to have our own course on American history called American History X. Mm-hmm. And Danny says, what the fuck, man? Like, it took me so much time to write this, paper. And the topic was about a civil rights leader, right? Something like that. Mm-hmm. So technically he wasn't wrong in the technical aspect. But he was told to do it again. So he's like, man. And, it looks like he doesn't really want to do it again and this and that. So, I mean, it's already starts off kind of iffy. And I thought the whole movie moving forward, which is going to be him, rewriting his paper. Ultimately.
I thought the whole movie was just going to be him going to see this dude and just see him every day and just learn about stuff.
Yeah. And apparently it definitely wasn't that, because it just gets a little more crazy. So moving forward, we look into Derek, who's the brother of Danny, the older brother, who has a big swastika on his chest, right where his heart is.
Right over his heart.
Yeah. And before they describe him, they introduce a character called Cameron Alexander, who is the leader of this area, Los Angeles, I would assume so, right? Venice Beach. In Los Angeles, there's a bunch of skinheads, and the leader who's making them all, rise to power and impact minorities in their community is called Cameron Alexander. Kind of like the Hitler to the Nazis almost, in a smaller, definitely way less power segment, but still effective to other minority groups. And the principal who was talking to Danny earlier, the younger brother, was saying he works with the cops in LA. And they were talking about how in the area there are these group of people, neo-Nazis, skinheads, and how Cameron Alexander leads them, and how they use Derek as a big way to kind of, what's the word, to get these people to join you.
Sort of motivate like these people to just kind of like
join your movement.
Yeah.
And then it leads to a very interesting scene where Derek is speaking the news. And you want to recount the scene where he talks about his father dying in the fire in a black neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of, I mean, it's the first time that we see in the movie where we see how he sort of feels about like the state of America, really, where he kind of speaks to himself and says, this happened because of how America is. My dad died because of ABC. And
I mean, he straight up says like a black person killed my dad and this N-word, like this.
Yeah, like
he
like
we live in an N-word neighborhood by
it-
people who collect welfare checks that killed my neighborhood, and all immigrants come to America to ruin the country.
yeah, like I mean, even when he's like calling him the N-word, like that's something that explodes at him near the end, where it's like it's something he can't even hold back anymore.
And we're talking about like hard R N-word, which is why we don't say it in this podcast. We live in a N-word neighborhood, and it's disgusting. But he also says, this is a very, very interesting part. He says Europeans came to this country and flourished, yet other immigrants come to this country, aka Mexicans and black people, and they come around here and gangbang, collect welfare checks. And I mean, one thing that I didn't find that justified it, but aided his pain, was that his father was just actually doing his job. He was putting out a fire because his father was a firefighter, and he was killed by somebody else who happened to be black, and that's very interesting. Again, it's not justifying at all his attitude, but like you said, like that momentum of mindset didn't really come out until the end. Like at first he was just being upset about his father dying and stuff, and then it really
just
got
kind
bad.
of sounded like he was ranting, and it's just like, this is what's wrong with America, and like it's because of like these immigrants and things like that, and it's like it just explodes by the end where he's like, no, this happened because they're in this N neighborhood and things like that and whatever, and he just gets really upset about it.
And I have it right here, actually, the actual quote. He says, quote by Derek and it's just like old footage on the news, being interviewed by a news reporter, which is crazy to interview somebody who just lost their father in a fire when you really think about it. This just shows how greedy news reporters are. Like, hey, let's get the story of somebody whose father just died. I know it's a movie.
I mean, that's the news.
Exactly. And the quote he says is, I think it's typical. Country is haven to criminals, social parasites, blacks, browns, yellow. Every problem is race-related. Immigration aids welfare. Any color community is not white problem. Minorities exploit and in the U.S. and Europeans flourish. These people are just shooting people, doing their jobs, white Americans, and his father was doing his job in an N-word neighborhood he shouldn't have even been shit about by a drug dealer collecting a welfare check. Yeah. So that's just already like the movie starts and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, and this is the older brother of Danny who wrote the report on Mein Kampf.
Yeah, and you're already kind of like introduced to this idea that this family are like, they're kind of like skinheads or things like that, or neo-Nazis.
And then all while the American flag was waving in the background of him. So I love the imagery of the American flag during these racist moments because it's a huge one. It's like if you were to walk within a shadow, it would cover you all. Kind of U.S. flag.
Yeah, and there's even a moment later in the movie during one of the flashbacks during the big dinner scene when he kind of walks out on the porch and there's just the flag waving off the porch. And
that's actually the scene we just read before this, which is the dinner. And the guy's Jewish. He called him, let's just say K-I-K-E, because he's Jewish. And as soon as he was called that, and he basically calls the stepdad or the dad dating his mother, that, and then he says, he pulls down his tank top, shows his swastika tattoo, and says, "You see this?" To the Jewish father, it means you're not welcome here. And the dad looks at him, the boyfriend looks at him in shame and just walks out, being blanketed by the American flag as he leaves the house. And so we'll talk more about that scene later, but
I will say it was a little difficult to take him serious because whenever I see that actor, the boyfriend, I think of Rachel and Ross's dad from Friends.
Yeah, I know he's mad famous and a bunch of it, but even in the scene where in the high school after Danny was told about his paper, it was the older brother from Malcolm in the Middle. Oh,
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, and actually, like one of the most vulgar characters, who ends up singing the white man must move
that's a dude
on.
from My Name Is Earl.
Yeah, like he's in a bunch of films, and he's
also
language,
in I, Tonya.
Yeah, and his language in the whole movie was crazy. Like I'll be honest with you, man. I hate censoring myself right now. Like I wish we can quote the movie as is. Like I wish we can just say the words so you guys can understand what we're saying. Because I'm not trying to I just want to say those words. I'm so itchy. I don't care. But like I just want to talk about this film and its reality, because I hate that we're so censored that we can't say these things, because it's like, well, you're not allowed to say this and that. Fuck that. Like, I just feel that this movie was very representative of the fact that we should be exposed to the truth of the reality of real disgustingness in this country. And I know that's just a movie, but I think ultimately we should be exposed to it because it hurts. And the reason it hurts is because it's so real. You feel me? And I mean, that's just my little like spiel on it. Again, I don't want people to think like, oh, I'm just itching to say the word. It just sounds ridiculous to say things like, you know, censor myself and all that stuff. I just don't agree with it. And anyway, with the whole organization that Derek has, it's called the DOC. Right? I actually don't know why it's called DOC. That's the one thing I didn't pick up. Do you know?
No, I didn't pick that up.
But the whole people, like the skinheads and all that stuff, they're called the DOC, right? And it goes back to like color and black and white in terms of imagery, right? And they they have this scene for the basketball scene where Derek when he was younger, and Derek is in jail while Danny's in high school. Yeah. But before he was in jail, prison. There we go. We defined for the YouTube, we defined prison and jail earlier, and I just definitely didn't use the right terms. And this is the one scene I didn't like in the movie. Not for the overall base. I just hated that it was a basketball game, you know? So it was corny, you know? It was like one of those things where like, oh yeah, man, you want to throw down, man? Play me in basketball. And to describe the scene, hey
man, white people can jump.
yeah, man. It's a great movie, by the way. It's essentially people playing on the basketball court, and then one of the skinheads, the big, I should know his name, and I'll look it up right here, but one of the big ones, big fat guy of the skinhead group, starts talking trash to the other group, which is a black person, right? And he says, hey, man, like he just starts really pressing him and all that stuff and being really nasty. His name is Ethan Suplee. That's the guy who's on My Name Is Earl and stuff like that. He starts saying this and that. They get into altercation, which ultimately leads up to overall game choice, which is if it's whites against the blacks, and if the whites win or whoever wins, basically the other opposing race can never come back in this court.
Yeah.
So, but the whole scene was shot in black and white, and just to say off the bat, like I think the director did that to show mentality. How in times of when movies were black and white or film, I felt like those were more just less progressive times when it comes to like racism and segregation and all that stuff. I just felt like it looked like that because the mindset is as old as its injustices, if that makes any sense.
That's an interesting interpretation. I mean, I already mentioned it, but I just kind of saw it as like a visual language because like other like TV shows and movies have done this before. Like the one that comes to mind right away is in HBO's show Westworld.
Okay, I've never seen it, but I heard great things.
Yeah, what they do as a sort of term of visual language is that certain like because the show takes place during different time periods, and so during one time period it'll be in widescreen, and then the other time period it'll fill up the screen.
Okay.
And so it's a visual language that kind of like hints at you or tells you that like this is happening. Oh, I remember now. It's widescreen when it's in Westworld itself, and then it's full screen when it's in real world.
Got you. So it just shows you like these are the different portrayals of times or scenes or anything.
And so that's just I only saw it as that. It's like the second it's black and white, it's like, okay, this is the past. This is a flashback. I didn't really look super deeply into it of like the legitimate color of it, of like it is black and white.
And it could also just be like just looking at skin color, like just a black man to a white man's color, just so straight up there, and how it always exists. Like just because we're in more progressive times, it doesn't fade away the fact that our skin colors are different. Like you, even to me, like you're a little darker than I am, and this and that. But I mean, we're still here doing this podcast and not just killing each other. Especially for a dumb reason, just because of how we were born. So, but apparently, I mean, it was a very true thing to do. So, So Derek is in prison, and he was in prison for 3 years and eventually released. And we don't know anything up until this point, but they do show the scene in the beginning, right, where he shoots at the 3 black men.
Yeah.
So before
it opens up with that, really.
Yeah, we skipped over it real quick, but one of the scenes, it opens up with that scene. So this is to backtrack real quick. The first scene of the movie is actually Derek is having sex with his girlfriend. And then Danny is in the other room, and Danny hears like a crash outside of the car, and he sees that a black man is stealing what seems to be Derek's car.
Yeah.
Right. So he goes and tells Derek, and already you see Nazi flags and this and that, swastikas and all that stuff. And he's like, "Hey, Derek, Danny's telling Derek, somebody's stealing your car." And Derek, shirtless on his briefs, goes outside with his gun, and he goes to see who it is. He sees somebody guarding the door, which is one black man, and he shoots him. He sees somebody near the car, which is another black man. He shoots him too, and he tries to shoot the other guy in the getaway car, but he misses. And he shoots two black men, and ultimately, the third guy who gets in the getaway car, he gets away and stuff, right? So it leaves it at that, and then we can only understand that he's in prison for 3 years for doing, just until that point, shooting 3 people, right? So his brother's released, and it gets to the point where now the fat, guy from My Name is Earl, he's singing a song which, I mean, it's a crazy motherfucking song, and it just didn't surprise me, like
it didn't surprise you.
No, man. I mean, I just don't. I'm not surprised by shit like that because it's just, I feel like that stuff happens today.
I mean, even still, like, because I was watching it with my cousin, and like, as soon as that scene came on, he was just kind of like, Jesus Christ, and I was like, yeah, I know, like this, like, oh my god, the fucking song. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and like even right now, I go on YouTube, right, and I look up the song and it says American History X funny scene. So, but I mean, I don't think that movie is funny at all. Like, I don't think that thing is funny at all. I think it's crazy. Like, it's a fucking disgusting scene. And I wish we could play. You think we could play on the audio or copyright? You think?
Copyright.
Fuck.
Yeah.
But I want to see if I could maybe get the lyrics on it because it's kind of disgusting, man. And let's see. I think I got it right here.
Yeah, it's such a disgusting song, and like I honestly like kudos and props to like the actors themselves to be able to like get through this stuff and do this stuff with such a serious face.
Yeah, because I mean, the reason I thought it was such an American thing to see is because he was in a Dodge. Like, he was in a Dodge truck, which, I mean, like Fords and all that stuff that people like incorporate into patriotism in America. Like buy American. Even though I hear American cars suck ass. Like that's from what I hear. I can't find the song, but at the end he says, "And the white man pushes on," you know, and it's just crazy. So we'll put that in the supplementary for people who really want to know and stuff because it's important. Just like we put up the 9/11 Howard Stern thing. Like, I know that started off with very strong language. It's it straight up was saying that we got to blow up these tower heads because now what they did to us is, and I know that seems very racist, and it is, like it is very like ignorant more so, but in the context of things, again, not justifying it at all. It just speaks on how true the country is and how we tend to express ourselves more truthfully when there's chaos going on.
In a time of crisis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. That just, it's crazy. Yeah, man. It's ridiculous. So, also, Danny has a ridiculous smoking habit, the younger brother.
Yeah,
he smoked a billion.
I love how like no one really questions it either. Like he's just smoking. Like
it's never really it's never a subject matter.
Like they point out the mom smoking, but not like no one's ever like Danny. Like the only time Derek points it out is when he says you're blowing that in mom's face,
and she's the one coughing up, and
but no one's ever like, Danny, you shouldn't be smoking.
Yeah.
Like, it's so bizarre.
Yeah, I think so too. And he's constantly smoking. Like almost in every scene, he's smoking a cigarette.
And I'll just say, when I came back home today, my cousin Jordan was watching an anime, and it's an older cartoon from like the 90s, and like a mom or something like that pulls out a cigarette at some point and starts smoking, and like I was just kind of like, yo, man, like, how come like cartoons back then they just always had smoking and things like that, but it's just like, even now thinking about it, it's like it's just sometimes I forget that back in the day everyone used to smoke. I mean,
even and this is something I have to like for sure fact check. Doctors used to recommend cigarettes. Do you know that?
I didn't. Yeah. I haven't heard of that.
In old commercials, and this is definitely like a supplementary type of thing or whatever. But doctors would recommend cigarettes on commercials and stuff. Like one and something doctors recommend smoke a cigarette after a meal or something like that because it would help you. And
what the fuck?
Yeah, man, that's a very real thing. And of course, I don't have my facts straight right now, but I will bet.
Are you straight?
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I will bet my socks right now that that's a real thing. So, I mean, it's crazy and how we advertise things without really knowing the science behind it and stuff. So, anyway, the fat man, he's singing the white racist song on his way to Derek's house, and once he gets there, he tells Danny's house, which is also Derek's house. They're brothers. He tells Danny, "Come on, man, recite it," while he's filming with the video camera because he's excited that Derek got out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then Danny's like, all right. He says, "Death, destruction, chaos, filth, and greed," sarcastically. But then he's like, okay, I'll say it. And Danny says, the younger brother, he says, "I hate anyone that isn't white, Protestant. They're a burden to the advancement of their white race." I mean, he says, some of them are all right, I guess. And the fat guy says, "None of them are all right. Stop saying that." But then Danny says, "I hate the fact that it's cool to be black nowadays. The hip-hop influence on white suburbia. Save the rhetorical bullshit, Hillary Rodham Clinton. It'll never happen." So Danny's, spreading this ideology, which really doesn't fit his, first statement, which he says, some of them are right, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like he's already conflicted with this idea that, I don't hate all people that are minorities.
Yeah, and I think you kind of already see a glimpse of that, like when he runs into the black kids in the bathroom at school, where he kind of takes a second. And I think just with him ever saying anything, you can kind of see or tell it's like he wants to do something, but just more so because of the fact that he knows that he should, quote unquote, should do something. Yeah. But all he does is just blow the cigarette in his face.
And just tells the other kid on the floor, like, stand up for yourself, which is the Malcolm in the Middle kid. I mean, this is the only scene, so he wasn't really a major part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he was the older brother in Malcolm in the Middle. Very, very like random to me. And then he says one thing where he says, "People look at me and see my brother." Like because he's narrating the movie also. Every now and then he's narrating before the scene starts. And one of the reasons Danny says Derek started the movement of the DOC, or at least pushed it forward, is because he said he didn't want white kids to feel unsafe anymore in their neighborhoods because of black kids or Hispanics and gangs and stuff like that. So that was a very interesting statement, which it's crazy. It's very crazy. So the way after Derek was released, it was shown in the black and white imagery again, because when he's out of prison, he's very he has hair, he's fit, he's wearing a tight white, shirt.
Yeah, I gotta say, Edward Norton, he got fit for this.
Bro,
film.
He got fucking ripped. Motherfucker looked like the Hulk, not green. Yeah, and I guess it showed his maintainedness, how he was just. I mean, even before and after, in the imagery for both sides, which we'll talk about later, his change forward out of prison and change before prison. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was ripped. There's no other way to say it. The motherfucker was shredded. So, but when Derek was, skinheaded and he was recruiting vulnerable white men. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Recruiting. And one of the scenes before they, wreck a supermarket shop owned by a Korean person, which hired a lot of illegal immigrants. What they say. One of the people that he was trying to recruit offered his younger brother a hit of weed, and he was like, "Don't do that to my brother. Stop offering weed. Weed is for black people." Yeah. And while they're all smoking cigarettes, which is hilarious. It's so dumb. So, and then one thing that this is true. I mean, it's just so sad. But today, white people and black people smoke marijuana or do drugs really on the same rate, and just that black people are more often to get convicted and arrested for it. That's a fact. That's not anything but true.
I know that because of Ben and Jerry's.
oh yeah, because they posted the whole thing and stuff like that.
Hell yeah.
Well, I know that because I'm reading Carol Hart's drug use for adults right now. Okay. And it just spews beautiful and really. No, I mean, what I mean by beautiful is that informative facts that people don't teach you. And it's a very interesting book. Again, Carl Hart's Drug Use for Adults. It's a great book, and I'm reading it right now. And yeah, so now one of the reasons I wanted to read the scene in the beginning is that Derek is so well spoken in this movie.
I would say so.
Amazingly well spoken. Even if you go to the initial reading of the scene we're trying to portray and stuff. I mean, fantastic reading and talking and all that stuff with Derek. And one thing that came to mind is that basically when you're a leader of any movement, the way you communicate to people is very crucial. Mm-hmm. Super. So I think I'm not going to lie to you. Not only do I think of Barack Obama, but I think of Adolf Hitler. You know, like it's about how you portray your message to people, how you persuade, and how you say things to people that really get them going. It's not about the actions you do. It's really more so that if you communicate a message strongly enough with the motive that's underlying from a people's, you know, that's vulnerable, as he says,
Yeah.
it's going to get to them. So it's very, very amazing that Derek speaks the way he does, and props to Edward Norton.
Yeah, and like there's even the moment that we'll get into later when he's in prison where one of them tells him like you got to stop with the preaching.
Yeah,
and because that's just his character.
He's just smart.
Like he can't stop himself from constantly going on some sort of like preaching like rant and whatever the case is,
which is what he's used to outside of prison. And
yeah.
And before they break into the Korean market that hires a bunch of, you know, let's say Mexicans, you know, that are there, quote unquote, illegally, he preaches that money is wasted on jailing and assisting immigrants. He calls the border a joke. And the speech is very well given. And it convinces anyone that's on the fence or like ill-ridden racism that foreigners are exploring the country. He says things like border jumpers. And as the people are listening, and sometimes like he'll call them border jumpers and they'll laugh, and he'll be like, don't laugh. He's like, this is a serious thing. And he points to the supermarket they're about to attack, and he says, you know who used to own that? He just named somebody who's apparently like white and they used to own that shop and passed away. And he's like, now we have some Asian guy in there hiring border jumpers, and you know, they're ruining this country. They're ruining hardworking Americans. And when he said that, I'm like, how often do we hear that today in our politicians' speeches? Hardworking Americans.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, it rings a bell almost, you know? So he says, are you going to stand around while a country gets raped? And then they go forward and they demolish.
I thought was amazing foreshadowing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we'll get there very soon. Because, wow, I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. Stick around because it gets crazy. They demolished the grocery store. Some people are recording while they're kicking Mexicans on the ground. They're yelling, you know, Viva la Mexico, Beaner, Spick. Like they're saying these things to people. They get the counter lady, and they're like,
that was so tough watching the counter lady just get shit spilled all over her.
A bunch of 4 men grab the lady, put her on the counter. They're saying, oh, this bitch stinks. She smells like guacamole and fish and chips. And they start pouring food all over her face, liquor in her mouth. Then they pour like, let's say, a mayonnaise and stuff on her, and then when her face is covered in like white mayonnaise. Again, this whole thing is in black and white because they're showing the past. They're saying, "Oh, look, you look better now, like a white lady. Maybe
you might get a better job now or something like that."
And outside the cowardliness of all that stuff, one of my favorite scenes in terms of like going back to it being a movie is when they throw the cash register through the glass.
Okay.
Oh, that's such a great, like, just in terms of camera work, you know. And I know, like, for those watching, like, you know, what kind of recap in the movie, but I mean, this is one of those movies where there's just so much talking points throughout it where, like, listen, because if you haven't watched the movie or you really don't care, or fuck it, if you're trying to just spark us the shit, you know, like, we'll be quicker done than the movie itself. But it's a really intense scene. And I mean, it's even significant in terms of imagery when the fat guy takes the burger, you know, statue with him after he leaves the grocery store after they're done attacking everybody that works there, all the Spanish workers and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just amazing. So, it's one of the funny things that Derek says, that all these immigrants are destroying our country, you know? So they go in and attack the market that feeds their community. How stupid is that? Yeah,
I mean, it's so hypocritical in such an ironic sense, because and it's really interesting that that even happens, because Derek later on sees that for himself, as we'll get into. Yeah. But Derek himself starts to see the hypocrisy through all this preach, where he questions it of just like, no, this is all just bullshit. This is all just he said, she said. And
I'm gonna get into that way more later, because I feel like even with this like supposed change, there still is just so much that I really can't, like, I mean, of course it's a movie, but I can't justify it. But now we get to like right after they attack the supermarket, we get to the dinner scene we just read, right? And going forward from that, one of the funny things that they discuss Rodney King, and I actually was gonna do some research on Rodney King, but I like this movie because they talk about the case, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know much about the case. I kind of wanted to stay like that because I wanted to see how my perspective would be shown through this. But they kind of sum it up.
Mm-hmm.
Police did what they did to a black man, and it was justified because he was, speeding on the highway. AKA, oh, well, if he's breaking the law, we should be able to beat a black man with sticks because the police are justified because they're the authority.
Yeah.
And this is one part in the scene we were reading where the mom is like, well, I don't think they should be able to use that force. And Derek says, well, what are you, authority of, the law?
Mm-hmm.
Yet, Derek is talking about how they use standard textbook procedure, and he's not an authority
He's
of
not
law.
the law.
So it's very, again, hypocrite. And this is without realizing it. Preaching something you know nothing about. How we praise, veterans and this and that or all that stuff, but we know no knowledge of what they do. We don't step in their shoes.
Yeah.
So I think that scene in itself is very, 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 very incredible.
I mean, it's just a real lack of empathy, almost.
And how he doesn't want to be included in the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
Like his sister Davina says, you're like the KKK, and he's like, I'm in no way, shape, or form compared to those low rednecks, unorganized organization of KKK.
And you could say that you could argue that that's kind of like a point where it shows sort of like the crack that he doesn't fully believe in it.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, but or maybe that the Nazis and the KKK are the same thing. Because hate comes in separate, branches.
I feel like while like Nazis and KKK are like not like the same, they're very much of the same branch or same tree, and so
100% same root,
Yeah, and so when he really argues or gets really defensive about that of like, no, I'm not KKK. I think that really shows a lot of like, no, I'm not. Like
I'm not this type of trash. I'm this type of trash.
Yeah, it's almost like that one guy that's like, I'm not racist. I have a black friend.
Yeah, it's the stupidest shit ever.
And it's like
that's perfect. And yeah,
I just it's such a cop out where it's like he's trying his best to like try and show that he's not being a racist piece of shit, but it's like, dude, come on.
Yeah. And I don't know why I think at this point this is just a quick B-hole segment for those who know B-hole. Learn about it. And Carl Hart, the book, I wanted to bring it up just because it talks about a lot of injustices that black people face because of it, because of the country. How the opioid crisis, we view white people who are dealing with it as victims, but when it's black people during the crack, epidemic and stuff like that, or pandemic, whatever, that they're like, not terrorists, but crime doers and this and that. But one thing I just wanted to say is that when you look up things like heroin addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
You always find all the documentaries with heroin and addiction in the same title. You never find a documentary on just heroin, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to say is that it's like finding a documentary on cars, right? But all they do is show the accidents.
Okay.
They don't show the actual, I'm not going to say the advantageous features of, cars or heroin, but they don't go in full depth of what heroin is. Just like pure cocaine. And moving forward, like just with all drugs, basically his basis is that all drugs should be legal because, in the Declaration, or like whatever the Constitutional Declaration is, the pursuit of happiness and all this stuff, and the freedoms and all that. And our freedom should be able to do and decide what we do in our bodies. Because if not Thomas Jefferson, somebody else, they said, what if we let the government decide what foods went into our bodies?
Yeah.
It's just a whole spiel of things. So I don't know why that made me think of that, but I think that's a very important note to take from that book that I read, that I'm still reading at this point. What do you think about that idea? Like when you talk about heroin, you just talk about addiction, but if you were talking about cars, what sense would it make to just talk about the accidents?
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like directly comparable, just because I think it just kind of goes without saying, like, because I don't think anyone really cares too much like how heroin is made or something like that. I think a majority of people know like what heroin is or how like people use heroin or things like that. So I don't think there's much of a curiosity or interest of like how like how it's made or how it's used or things like that. I think it's just that's already known knowledge.
Yeah.
Like most people are morbidly curious about how like a car is made or how other things are made. There's like a whole show about how things are made on like the Discovery Channel.
But like what I'm trying to say is like what coke is to fentanyl, drunk driving is to car wrecks.
No, I know what you're
like
trying
there's
to.
one aspect to the entirety of everything. Just like pure coke isn't such a terrible thing.
No, I know what you're trying to get at.
I'm not trying to make no point. I'm just kind of like trying to expand that thought, but like I don't really have anything to like that. I just one of those things that make you think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't personally, I don't find it super comparable. I just think like again, you want to know about the dangers of heroin because at the end of the day, you could say that drugs like that, heroin and whatever, are more dangerous than they are good.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why there's more of a focus on those type of things, because it's more of like an ad or a warning of like, you shouldn't be doing this because of this.
Yeah.
And so yeah, sure, you could do the same thing with cars. You could have a whole thing of like, this is why you shouldn't drive. Because sometimes I don't like driving.
Yeah. But it's more saying like cars, you could die every single time you step on the road.
No, of course.
And most people that, I mean, again, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think all drugs have this ideology of, well, some are more dangerous than good. I think that, I mean, this guy who's a professor of is it pharmacological, like whatever, like he studies drugs and all that stuff, like all types. He does heroin regularly.
Wow.
He does it regularly, mediated, and that's his like preference of drug, heroin and cocaine and stuff like that. And he studied the effects on multiple people. He's gotten himself like he's weaned off of it to see the effects, and that's his like choice of drug.
Weird.
And we don't apply the same logic as we do to those drugs as alcohol. And it's only weird because the government illegalizes these things. And people die from cocaine because in New York City, about like 60% of it has fentanyl in it. Go to Colombia, look at the cocaine there, see how pure it is and how cheap it is, And maybe if, marijuana wasn't illegal still in some states, people wouldn't die of, what is it, K2?
K2.
It's ridiculous.
I was gonna say K9, but that's a dog.
Some shit, but you know what I'm trying to say? Maybe it's not the drugs itself, because it's like if I put a gun on this table, is that gun gonna kill anybody on the table?
It'll get up and kill me.
But like if the gun is there, it's not doing nothing, But if I put a fentanyl laced cocaine packet there, you just happen to be a little curious, and you just die. I mean, you took those drugs.
I definitely think
rather than buying it from a organized, thing that comes from like, I can go to the store and buy marijuana now, and I have less fear of dying than I would if I'm a dealer that I don't know.
I think it just kind of speaks to like the dangers of the human mind more than anything.
Maybe
because every person is different. And sure, for this guy, he can take heroin and still be a doctor and still be super well credited and renowned and things like that. But not everyone can be like him.
No doubt, and I agree with you on that completely.
So I think when it comes to sort of these like documentaries and things like that of like, this is what's wrong with these sort of drugs, because like how I said earlier, I think at the end of the day, the cons outweigh the pros.
Maybe.
And so
I don't agree with that, but again, that's my viewpoint on that.
Yeah. And so I think that like, that's what it is. It's just like the cons outweigh the pros, because like, it's more dangerous, it's, I mean, again, like the analogy of like having a gun, it's dangerous to have a gun out because not because a gun will get up and kill someone, but it's statistically proven that when there's a gun out, there's a higher chance of an injury happening.
Yeah, but that's like, oh yeah, you're right. But I don't. But if like, wouldn't that risk go up if there's a mentally incapable person around the gun?
I mean, it would go up even higher, but that doesn't change the fact that there's still a chance of an injury happening.
But if a responsible person had a gun, aka the government doing background checks and very like forcible tests to make sure people with the wrong hands don't get their hands on the gun, then it would be safer. But we just don't do that in this country. We
don't do that in this country.
We demonize weapons because the people that shouldn't be getting them do. And you can order guns online. And a lot of people who shoot up schools and stuff, they get them
at the end
incorrectly.
Of the day, you can't always have your gun on you. There's I've recommended this movie to you, but there's a scene where someone has a gun on them, and a child like finds a gun and starts like,
and that happens all the time. Children kill their own parents by mistake and this and that. But I mean, to honestly speaking, that's the fault of not putting in the lockbox and all that stuff. But there's a real video you can look up. I'm pretty sure in Baltimore, where some guy's getting a haircut. Right? It's a guy getting a haircut, and the barber's cutting his hair, and a guy walks into the shop with the intent to kill the barber. So he points his gun at the barber. The guy getting a haircut gets up, just walks away, and before the guy could kill the barber, the guy who was getting a haircut was a cop.
Oh, wow.
And he shoots the guy and kills him, who was going to shoot the barber for no reason. Now, imagine he didn't have a gun because the law says he couldn't. I know he's a law of authority, you know? But if you ever watched the movie, I can't remember now, Hell or High Water.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I want to watch that movie.
God, I got so tight. Not that it brings up this point, but it's just so good that I think you would like it, you know? Part of me thinks you wouldn't just because some of the scenes are dumb corny, but most of the scenes are great.
That's with Chris Pine, right?
I don't know, but it's two white guys and a Mexican. but there's a scene where somebody's gonna rob a bank, and they're running away, and they're holding the people at gunpoint and stuff. And then the sheriff wants to take out his gun. Before he can, all the citizens take out his gun and aim it at the robber. And he's like, "Man, I love Texas," you know. And that even in itself is a little corny, but really, man, like I don't think about this shopping cart killer, you know, and how the bystander effect. And how most of us don't do nothing because we're scared of our own lives. But what if you had a gun in your hand in the right moment, legally and mentally capable to do so, and you can save a life? Again, that's very drastic movie. And again, I'm not here to advocate this or that. I know from the... I thought this was about American History X, man. I just very much like how we're having this conversation and we're not yelling at each other. And fucking, you know, we obviously have different standpoints in this and this, you know, very like spread out.
Mm.
But again, look how calm we're talking. Look how I don't remember the last time I talked about these type of topics this calmly. Maybe because we have so much audience pressure. But really, I mean, fuck it, right? That's important. I think so, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it just kind of comes down to bias at the end of the day and things like that. Cause,
or education on it too, like, you know, information and everything.
I mean, because, you know, I just don't like guns.
Nah,
man.
I don't blame you, bro.
I don't like them.
I don't blame you at all, because I think they can bring a lot of harm when in the hands of the wrong people, or even just responsible people who have a bad day.
Yeah, it's just accidents happen, man. That's all it is. It's just that shit just kind of scares me. It's like you could just avoid all that if it just wasn't there.
But then I think of you saying earlier, when you can just beat somebody to death.
I mean, that's just a savage thing, but
sword guns when they in the right place and time.
Even when I was saying that, I thought about it too, because like when you use a gun or things like that, it's like it's almost like a tool.
Yeah, because so's a pipe and fists.
Because I wouldn't say fists, but I like a pipe, sure, but it's like I feel like when you use something that isn't. I feel like when you use something that isn't your fist, like an actual like
there's a detachment.
There's a detachment. Exactly that. There's a detachment.
I don't think so. I think it's an extension of what you already were going to do. It's like
well, I think it's both because it's like obviously like say if you took someone that wanted to kill someone, they could shoot them or they could beat them to death. But I think at the end of the day, it's easier to shoot someone than it is to beat them to death. And that's why I say that it's more savage to beat someone.
I think killing is the same thing.
It's easier to pull a trigger than it is to keep wailing on someone.
I think it's quicker. I think because when you shoot somebody, they don't. I mean, obviously, depending on where you shoot them, this and that. I mean, it's not easy to kill somebody with a gun. Of course, a shot in the head will do it to you, but you still hear the effects of killing somebody. And I think
without a doubt,
I think that mental trauma is still very real and guilt. And you ever seen I'm pretty sure it's Macbeth where it could be one of these Shakespearean things. For sure, it's Shakespeare where they kill somebody, right? And one of the famous scenes is they kill somebody and they have blood on their hands. So the person goes to the well and they're trying to wash their hands. And the whole time they're washing their hands and they're trying to wipe off the blood. And it's cinematically or theatrical almost because it is, plays. And the blood just stays there. It's almost as if it's tainted. And they're washing and washing and washing, but it can never get off. I think to take a human life away is terrible. But I don't think that beating someone to death or shooting somebody are different things. I think taking a life is the same impactful thing. It's just a quicker process. When I say it's easier to kill someone with like a gun or a weapon, I'm not saying it's easier on the conscience. I'm saying it's methodology, like to do so. Like
I'm just saying it's physically easier to do that.
I mean, bro, people get into fights in like places, and like say like we got into a bar for like, hey, you know, like I hate that Italian accent you've been doing on the show, and I hit you, and then you fall backwards and you land the wrong side of your head, like you can die.
Yeah.
Like that's how easy it is. Like,
And you would get the fall for that.
unless I have witnesses and a good ass lawyer. In self-defense.
You would have to have OJ's lawyer, but you falling for it, buddy.
Not really, man. Because if the camera shows that you swung at me and I just duck back and I just swing at you real quick, or I just push you away and I'm in self-defense. I mean, we can go on this with back and forth. It really just depends on the jury and timing and lawyer. But there are ways to get out of that. Like, I mean, did the anti-lynching bill not get 200 attempts before it was actually passed?
Fair enough.
You know what I'm trying to say? So it's just one of those shitty things where, again, like you're not even trying to make the point that it's easier to kill a person. It's just, again, I see what you're saying though. Like I see like when you're beating somebody and they're pleading for their life and this and that, but of the 100 punches you throw at somebody, one of them, the first punch could have killed them and the rest of them could have just been you hitting a dead person. You know,
and that's why I think it's so savage, because it's
you can
like,
shoot somebody in the stomach and they could be pleading for the death, and then you have to shoot them again.
Okay,
you know?
Sure, but it's like you only have so much ammo. Like,
all right, but what about
you can unload a whole clip, and at that point you're done. And it's like you can keep punching them.
What about bombing a whole town, droning a whole town? Obama, you know, like what about that? What about droning a whole town of innocent civilians that die?
You know,
isn't that worse?
I mean, that's just a larger scale of it.
Is any form of death worse than another one if it's murder?
I would say that there is. I feel like there are worse ways to die. I mean, there's the age-old question: how would you want to die?
I mean, I just wouldn't.
But how would you want to die?
By not. I mean, I just wouldn't pick my death. I just would hate it. It's like knowing when to die. I wouldn't want to know. You feel me? Like, would you want to know when you were gonna die?
Isn't there like a show or a TV show or something that did something like that, where there's like you could figure out when you're gonna die, like a Black Mirror episode or something like that?
Oh, I'm sure Black Mirror is a great show. You know, I think we'll cut this part off of the YouTube, or should we leave it on? What do you think?
What part?
Like this whole conversation outside of American History X. Sorry, Spotify listeners or anybody listening to the podcast. What do you think? Live decision making right now.
When I'm editing it, I'll decide.
All right, but no, when it comes to finding out when you're gonna die and stuff, I mean, personally, I just wouldn't want to find out. I just think we all go when we go. I, for some reason, think of the CEO of Domino's who died in a scuba diving accident. Motherfucker had millions of dollars and died in a scuba diving accident. What a piece of shit. Wouldn't you hate that? I got millions of dollars and I died for some motherfucking fish. It'll be tight. But yeah, bro, ultimately, like, I don't know. I think I love that we had this discussion just off the, thank you to Carl Hart for like invoking this discussion, because I think it's important, and we'll get back into the movie, in a second. I'll pick up. I have the perfect place where we left off and everything.
Nice.
But I just think it's awesome, and I just hope that if you're listening to this, just please think about the next time we talk about a political, I guess, or just a philosophical or just ideological, whatever it is, thought process in terms of drugs, murder, all that stuff, because it's important to discuss, and I hope that we exemplify that discussion, not fuck you, Javi, like not just real like discussion, because I feel that some things get really heated during those times, and also education on the stuff you're talking about. Don't just spew some bullshit.
And I just want to point out,
I'm
being so chill right now, even though this is the last episode, and I could just go off on you right now.
Honestly speaking, you can just say all the curse words you want. You can say all the hate crime. I was gonna say crazy.
I could just go off on you right now, but it's the last episode. You see how chill I'm being?
I was gonna say some crazy shit, but fuck y'all. Yeah, they're not ready for the crazy.
Y'all. Boy, I have to interrupt. I gotta interrupt. There's no y'all. It's just a shit up job.
Anyways, we
my fault.
G Christ. Thank you, Jonathan. Literally love that you're here. I'm
quite
super clearly.
Yeah, but I'm quiet like a box, just unless it's needed. And that moment was needed. That moment was like it was just quiet. It's like, yo, what do you mean?
Please to the listeners, come listen to this podcast live and just talk your shit.
And to listeners, I'll let you know again, we're really out here though.
And exactly. So now we get to the point where, okay, back to the American History X. We got this younger brother influenced by his neo-Nazi older brother, leading him into the pathway of life, which is, I guess segregation, Nazism, all that stuff. And now the family, the wife of the deceased father, the two brothers, the girlfriend of Derek, the older brother, and the sister of both Danny and Derek. I know it's a lot to follow, but let's just say a family conversation. Right? And if you want to skip back to the conversation we had in the beginning, the scene that we portrayed, it moves forward from that. And talking about how black men commit crimes, this is Derek's perspective, that land them in jail because they just can't get their act together, quote unquote, And Derek says this, he says, Lincoln freed the slave 130 years ago. How long does it take to get your act together? Derek says. And then the father, not the father, I keep saying that, but the boyfriend of the wife says this amazing line. He says, Jews have been persecuted for 5,000 years. Are you saying it's wrong to feel bad for somebody experiencing anti-Semitism?
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I was like, pew, 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 pew. I was just like, no, I was just like, it was a very great line. And you kind of see this little, millisecond of like, oh shit, like by Derek, because it's true. And then when things get really hectic and you hear the scene that me and Javi portrayed, Davina, the sister of both Derek and Danny, she says, fuck that, I'm out of here. And when she tries to leave and gets past Derek, he pulls Davina by the hair.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. And then he grabs a piece of meat, which I'm assuming she's a vegetarian, because he grabs a piece of meat and shoves it in her mouth.
Why do you assume that? Just because it's meat?
Well, yeah, because I just figure like
it's
because
1998. No one was vegan in 1998.
Because he kept portraying her as a liberal and all these like progressive things, and just like the scene
I just saw it as like she wasn't gonna eat anymore, so he was like, no, you had to sit down and eat your food.
I look at it as like let's backtrack, the scene where the mom was coughing because of the cigarettes, right? When they did the blood in the napkin. Right, they didn't show the blood in the napkin. You know how the scenes in movies they'll like cough in the napkin to be blood,
yeah,
and they'll do a close up of the blood. I'm like, oh, how original! Like in this scene, she saw the blood, but the perspective was in front of both of them, so it was just the mom and Derek looking at the napkin, but you didn't see the blood on the napkin. Unlike Whiplash, which we discussed earlier, which forcibly showed the blood on his hands and the water and all that stuff. But my favorite scene, this is all opinion, is when they put the camera in front of the drummer and then they showed the emphasis on the drumming, turned around, and then like showed a little hint at blood on the drums. Which is to say, this movie's not about her getting a disease or this and that, but this is a little part of it. So I would think the best way to come at his sister for not listening to his girlfriend's perspective on her racist self is to shove meat in her mouth because she's a liberal, and liberals are often, vegetarian, vegan, and stuff like that. And I mean, this is my assumption and stuff like that.
I can't wait to get a conservative vegan on this show.
I hate laws, but I love me some cows. and so then but regardless of whether she's vegan or not, was my assumption, and the way you took it is because it's dinner and she's supposed to be listening and having a meal. Then the father says, "Hey, stop," and he says, "This is your family." And then Derek continues to go real hard against the boyfriend of the mom, and he says, he calls him with K-I-K-E. He says, "You're a Jewish N-word loving hippie bullshit." He points at his swastika tattoo then, and he says, "You see what this means? This means you're not welcome." And then the mom screams at Derek, her son. She says, "I'm ashamed that you came out my body." But after all that racist stuff, he calls Rodney King a monkey, This girl, after he hits his mother in the stomach, pulls his sister by the hair, calls the Jewish guy what he did. His girlfriend hugs him at the end and says, "I'm proud of you, baby."
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And then the sadder thing, which I'll say this real quick, but the mom says to the boyfriend, the teacher, who was mad at Danny for writing the Mein Kampf thing, She says he's just a boy. And I think about the last thing we talked about last episode with the person that found the mom who was dating the guy, and the son was found in the freezer in the basement, and how I was saying that her tolerating the behavior of him could aid in his murder of the child. And I feel like, yeah, it's a mom, and me and you will never know how that feels like to be the mother of a child. Even if we're parents, we'll never know what it's like to be a mother to birth a person. But that's aiding that behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember what show it was, but there was a show where there was
Danny Phantom.
Oh, I remember now. Big Little Lies on HBO.
I've never seen it.
And there is a dude who is just an awful fucking guy, and was just like abusive to his wife and things like that. And his mom just could not believe this. Was just like, no, that's not true. It's not true whatsoever. And she was just so against this idea that her son could ever be this abusive asshole. And it just kind of speaks to the fact that it's like, especially as a mother, it's so hard to distance yourself as a mother and view your son or your child outside of reality. Yeah. Because she does say he's just a boy who lost his father. And it comes out. This is true. It comes out as a justification of like, he's like this because of this. Yeah. And that's a justification only a mother would make.
And there's also just this tolerism of like men's behavior in terms of like a family, how women can't get away as much as things as men can, especially in like Hispanic families. In my opinion,
I think this movie kind of speaks a lot to sort of like what we've talked about before, of like sort of nature versus nurture.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's applicable thing to all things, right?
Yeah, and because we even kind of talk about it later. We'll talk about it later in the episode when they start talking about with their actual father, and like sort of when Danny speaks about where he thinks it all began.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get to that part because I mean it just wraps it all up, really.
Yeah, and I think that really speaks to that sort of nature versus nurture, because
even with the what's it called? Derek's impression on Danny, which I think one of the most beautiful things about the movie is when they close up on Danny's face. And I love that they casted him because his eyes and his face are so young. So when in those moments when he's listening to Derek speak, or the fat guy speak, or all these racist, neo-Nazi bitches speak, like they close up on his face, even when he has hair and when he doesn't, like when his skinhead and he doesn't, and it looks as of a face that's taking it in. It's of a face that's like listening and just like a sponge, which is what children are, sponges, And real quick, I wanted to refer to the Honeymooners, which has this very famous phrase I'm sure you're aware of. And maybe not now, but when I say this, you will. To the moon, Alice, to the moon. Okay. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Which is a euphemism for what?
Sex.
No. That's like the alliteration I said last time. In the show The Honeymooners, when he says that to Alice, he means he's gonna beat her.
Beat her? Yeah. I've never considered that.
Yeah, it's a euphemism for when he's gonna beat her. Like, one of these days, Alice, one of these days, boom, boom, to the moon, Alice, to the moon. And he like clenches his fist, and that's what it ultimately refers to in the show The Honeymooners.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And that was a show on American television a very long time ago. And I'm going to show you, we're going to put it up in the supplementary, but this is one of the, and for you, what YouTube listeners, we'll have it there like phased in. But look, this is when he says that.
Okay.
You see how his fist is raised up and he says, to the moon, Alice, one of these days. And I don't know that because I watched Honeymooners. I just know that because I'll say this, when I was younger, a lot of the things that I've learned in terms of sex or like domestic issues and stuff like that is because they joke about it. And I think that's why comedy is so amazing, because they're not doing it to like poke fun at it. It raises awareness. I know this shit. I know this is one of those things that, I mean, most people today will be like, what the fuck talking about? Because they don't really know what happened in the past entertainment wise. But when you're raised with the TV in front of you, what else can you do but pick up what they're saying, references wise and stuff? And I don't blame you for thinking that, because I wouldn't be surprised either, unless he was fisting her. No, but yeah, that was that's why that reminds me of that. With the whole, what'd you say, Big Little Lies?
Big Little Lies.
So it's so during that whole conversation, I mean, it ends off with her the mom yelling to Derek, "I wish you would never came from my stomach or my pussy." She didn't say that, but I just want to say pussy.
What's on your mind, Frankie?
The human anatomy. So after the mom says he's just a boy, so we're not even nearing the end of the movie, which is, I'm just happy because I love talking on this podcast, bro. It's so fun. But Derek has a white power tattoo in his right arm, which is I want to point it out because one of the scenes later on in the movie are one of my favorite scenes.
Okay.
So I will point that out. Do we have any more Black Label left?
Nah.
I'll take a slow sip. Anyway, so now there's a scene where Danny and his mother are sitting down with the little girl. Forget her name. She's not really that important. But he's kind of like caressing her hair and talking about her. And the mom says, "Danny, I miss your long hair. Like, I miss when you had long hair." And he says, "Oh man, just kind of like pushing off the question." And she's like, "Hey, look, I'll quit smoking if you grow your hair back." And then he says, "Deal." And mind you, his hair. Not
even Danny says to her, like,
he says to her, like
if you quit smoking,
I'll grow my hair back. There we go. And then she's like, okay. Well, she says deal, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, again, that's that little breakage in saying that, like, he doesn't, like, he's willing to change that, and people who are really into that lifestyle aren't willing to change it at all. AKA, which we'll see later on, Derek's girlfriend. Which we'll talk about later, but. When she's being persuaded by Derek into leaving the movement of the Nazis, she's like, "Fuck no, we're bigger and better now. We're gonna grow stronger. I'm never leaving this. I'm convinced." So it's, I mean, really is like some people they learn, and I think one of the thing about Danny being a young kid is being in a school full of a diverse background student, which is great.
And
to be around.
I noticed too, even with the movie in general, the movie is very inclusive in terms of its cast.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of Black people in the movie, but there's also a lot of Asian people in the movie too.
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, there's also those Mexicans that get brutalized, but everybody's in the movie, you know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of inclusion in it, which is very important for a movie like this. Imagine if everyone was just white in this movie. That wouldn't make any sense.
Hence blackface, which is a terrible thing. I'm just gonna throw up some blackface right here in the video. And if you're a Spotify listener, go to our Instagram page, Earth Might Matter Pod.
Yes, sir.
Let me throw up some blackface for you so you can see how terrible this country is. Robert Downey Jr. on the other hand is a genius and hilarious. Straight up. And It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'll go back to my matter. If you listen to Joe Rogan and you're upset, go watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and shut the fuck up. I'm just saying. That's not the best comparison, but I'm always going to refer to it. So now we get to the crazy scene that actually, again, for people that are listening that we have our friend Jonathan here watching. Say what's up, Jonathan.
We're really out here.
And right before we started the whole thing, I was getting my shit together, and I showed him the scene that I was talking about in the beginning, which is the curb stomping scene, which is a disgusting tactic that white people will use on Black people, or who knows, for anybody to use against anybody, but just portrayed in this movie, where in the beginning scene they show three black men robbing Derek's home because they never named these men.
Yeah.
And he shoots two of them. One of them die off the spot, I assume, but the other one lives forward. Going back to this idea of you saying killing somebody with a gun is much easier. That's why I don't think it is, because this gunshot clearly didn't end this guy's life with a bat. He was suffering. Could have been saved even, Which I'm not trying to throw that in there to be like little jab, but just it's true, Not everybody can just kill somebody quick off the bat. Even to the South Park episode where the guy tries to kill himself and he shoots himself in the head several times, but every time he shoots himself, he never.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll throw on a supplementary, but there's a person that's trying to kill himself, and he's like, "I'm gonna end it all. I'm gonna end it all now," and he shoots himself in the face, and it goes through, and he's like, I didn't die. So he does it again, but every time he does it, he doesn't succeed in killing himself. It's hilarious. It's a fucking funny ass scene. I'll show you later.
Okay.
It's really, he does it 8 times. It's super funny, but this is not funny scene. And we get to the horrendous scene where this guy's not dead yet after being shot by Derek. And so I showed Jonathan before this because this is the scene that always intrigued me but put me off to watching it, because I saw the scene when I was younger where he gets the guy, he pulls him by the head, he brings him over to the curb, tells him to open his jaw. The guy does it. He presses his jaw open mouthed to the curb, pushes it down a little, and then stomps on his head. And I mean, it's just terrible.
You know,
What did you think about that scene, man?
Well, I mean, in general, like, just like you, we've already kind of talked about this before the episode, that scene alone is one of the reasons why we both kind of put off the episode or the movie.
Yeah, I didn't want to watch that shit. I just thought I couldn't tolerate that stuff.
It's such an intense thing. Yeah. And even as it happened, again, I watched the movie with my cousin Jordan, and like when the scene happened, well, when the movie opened up, and when that scene happens, they're getting robbed and whatever, and it kind of ends with like the sort of slow-mo scene of Derek walking forward towards the camera. Jordan thought that was like the curb stomp was gonna happen like in the beginning of the movie, so he had to step out of the room. He's like, no, I can't do it.
Did he see it later on? But
no,
he stepped out when the came on?
As soon as the scene came back, like toward like, which I would say is kind of like the climax of the movie.
I think so. But
like at that point, like Jordan stepped out, and I was just kind of like looking through my eyes because I was like, "Oh my god, this is so brutal!" Like it's such a gruesome moment. It is so disgusting. The fact that anyone would ever do this to another human being.
And imagine filming. Oh man, yeah. Like I was gonna say, imagine filming it, but bro, imagine just going through that. And actually, luckily enough, it's funny you mentioned it. When I watched it the first time, taking my notes, and I took in the scene. I just feel, regardless of cinema, like you just gotta take in the worst parts. I mean, I watched this, but I won't watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just hate Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I can't handle body horror personally.
I watched Hostel, and that shit fucked me up. I also watched those videos of people getting their heads cut off on YouTube, not YouTube, but like those videos.
Pain Olympics.
Oh, I've seen. I mean, I've heard about that. Like where the guy sits in a glass jar and lets it bust in his asshole, and they cut off their nuts and shit like that. But one thing that one interesting thing is that I was watching the movie a second time with Beatrice, right? And just out of pure luck and coincidence, we ordered food, some birria tacos again. So fucking good. I had that 50% off.
Nice.
So it went from like $10,000 to like $5,000.
Nice.
And I go downstairs, I come back up, and the scene was done. And I was like, man, I didn't need to see that shit again. Like I love cinema, and sometimes the most crude scenes are the most important scenes. But I'm really, I mean, I saw it again today with Jonathan before the episode started, but I just didn't need to see that shit again. Like in that moment and stuff. Like I just didn't want to. I didn't care for it. It's just the one time, scene and stuff. So
yeah, there are definitely some like just. There's some movies that just have such intense scenes that it's so hard to watch. There's this one movie, I think it's a French movie, where this dude just like fucking slits his throat like right on the camera, and like his blood just splatters against the wall behind him.
I've seen a lot of those movies though. I feel like I'm over the slit throat thing though. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But personally, I'll tell you, in this movie, it's one of the most shocking moments because it's so unexpected. It just kind of happens, and like I never watched the movie personally. I just know like
you just know a scene happens.
Like and like from that alone, just like American History X, it's like it's one of those movies that I don't really want to watch because it's like that scene alone seems so intense.
Gruesome and shit.
Yeah, that I don't know how much I could handle it.
Yeah,
and because again, even if American History X with that scene, I was barely watching through my eyes because I was
watching like
I was like, yo, this is so intense. Oh my god, it's just, it really just brings me to this idea that I could only imagine how people felt like when they first saw it for the first time.
In the theaters, right?
Because
again, oh my God.
Again, this movie came out in 98.
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet and things like that.
We didn't know
this scene was going to be a thing. I mean, personally, I don't know if like this moment was ever in any of the trailers or anything like that.
I saw a trailer and I'm so happy I didn't watch the trailer before the movie because it literally just shows the whole movie. Like the whole movie, bro. Like,
Interesting.
you know how I think me and you both stand on that. Like, we hate watching trailers, or like at least not hate, but don't watch trailers because it kind of.
I try to not watch trailers,
Yeah.
but some trailers I'm like I gotta watch it because I need to get in that
I
hype.
don't watch no trailers, never, unless I'm at the movies and like the movie's about to start and they show some trailers beforehand. I saw some trailers before Jackass. She's like whack. But Jackass Forever, good ass movie. But I mean, for me, I saw the trailer after I watched the movie, and I was like, why would anybody watch a trailer? Like, this is literally the whole movie in one trailer. But I'm assuming, like for me, like there's some things where I mean, some people do it smartly. I think one of the best trailers ever was Get Out's trailer.
Okay.
Because I went to go see not Get Out, some other movie, and their trailer sucks. The trailer is ass, like so disgustingly bad. And I was with Brian a long time ago, right?
Hate that guy,
man. But we were with him. I was with him, and we're watching a different movie that day. And the trailer for Get Out goes, and we're like, yo, that shit is garbage, bro. Like, what the fuck is that gonna be? Want to go see it? And I saw Get Out in theaters, and I know it turned into this whole trendy thing to look at. And I think, what's his name that directed it?
Jordan Peele.
Yeah, I think he kind of let me down with Us. I think that shit was absolute garbage.
No way.
I think that movie was not as good. My favorite part of that movie was just the ending, where like it shows how there's this like vortexes of universes that could happen between the families, and how there's other versions of you. Like, that was cool, but that movie was ass. Jordan Peele, ass.
Nah,
Sorry,
wild.
That
You're
movie was
wild for
complete
that.
garbage, hyped up trash.
I think anyone that doesn't like the movie Us just wanted it to be too much like Get Out.
No, I think
He wanted to make a horror movie, and he made it.
I think that everybody that watched Us said, I have to like it because I like Get Out. Like, I think everybody, but again, this fuck guns and heroin use, fuck that. On this shit, that movie was so trash and overrated.
Dude.
And when that scene, when
I
they were
don't even
just,
think that movie's overrated.
when she was
People
like,
definitely
hey,
like Get Out more than us.
when she was like, when the white lady was getting killed, and she was like, hey, call the police. And it was like, playing the police. I was like, did you know that Alexa actually, if you tell Alexa that you want to kill yourself, that she actually will guide you to like a suicide assistant helpline? Like, you know that? Like, that,
I didn't know that.
Well, now you do. And that's why I think that scene was so stupid and just focused on, hey, let's just kill all the white people. Because that's what makes movies great nowadays. Like, I just thought that movie was
didn't
trash.
see it like that at all.
I did. I just pressed that. I just thought my favorite part was the ending.
And that's the politicizing of it that I feel.
I don't know. I literally
kill all white people. That's not politicizing.
I think literally my first point was the whole police scene, which is famous, and we're like, oh, it's so cool. Which I think it's the same thing as killing the black guy first in old movies. You know, it's just like, it's not about that.
He wanted to make a horror movie. It just so happened to be that it's about black people.
No, I think that it was a bad movie.
He's even said it himself in a quote. Because I've written a paper about it where he said it himself that not everything's about race.
No, it's not.
Where he proved it himself. Where he proved it himself in Get Out that everything is about race, but then he proved it in Us where not everything is. But
am I
race.
incorrect to say that all the white people in the movie died in Us?
Yeah, because not only white people died in that movie.
Okay, but all the white people did die in the movie, right?
Other people died in that movie.
But the white people that were in the movie died, right?
But there were more than white people in that movie.
Listen to me. Like,
I'm hearing
you hear me though, but answer the question. The people that were white in that movie, right? Right?
Okay.
They died?
Yes.
There we go. I'm not saying that black people didn't die in the movie. Look, I'm not trying to say, sorry, and for Spotify listeners, Javi just got obliterated by a toy. What I'm trying to say is this. When I mentioned what I did, you made it about race because you're trying to say that I'm talking about just the white people in the movie. What I'm trying to say is that it's just an observation I made that was very emphasized in the movie, but that wasn't the whole point. Because my favorite thing of the movie was the story plot told at the end. You feel me? Like, the ending was that the girl got switched out with the other girl at the end, you know, because she snuck in through the universal portal or some shit like that, that switched out the daughter that was the mom now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my whole point. But what was shown in a lot of social media and this and that was that scene, which is what? The white lady on this, you know, saying, help, help, call the police. Which is, if you ask your Alexa or Siri to do, they will call the police. When it said play the police, I just didn't like that scene. And I just thought the plot wasn't so good. You know? Again, black people may have died in that movie, But that wasn't my point that I'm trying to make. So I think, and you
No,
trying to say that I'm trying to make a race, you made it about race, buddy.
Well, I'm not trying to say that the movie itself is about race.
Neither am I.
It's because what I'm trying to point out is that, like you pointed out, that all the white people die in that movie. The fact that you think that was the emphasis of that movie, your words.
Well, again, like
I don't think that was the emphasis.
It's a big segment. Like it's like the American History X, like the movie. I know it as a personal way of seeing is that, and again, it's not there's black people that die in the movie, like you say, right? But there's an emphasis, especially in American History X, where the black person gets killed by curb stomping, right? But the whole movie in itself is about racism and a mindset with a culture that's taught that from another higher up to other fellow neo-Nazis. You get me? Like there's a small segment that stands out the most, maybe a climax, right? But that stands out within a whole entirety. So that's how I take it as. Like,
I mean, if you want to compare them, American History X is just a lot more direct in that. The movie is very directly about race.
Which is more, if anything, it's more, but it's not, it's more, how can I say, like, spread out. And it's not saying, like, oh, whites against black or this. It's just like a race against all. I mean, I think when it comes to race, it's very incomparable because you said in yourself that, like, us isn't about race, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's about race.
So that's where we go. I'm just saying that there is a very popular observation of it where it is, because it really is a big thing, because a lot of white people do get killed in that movie. And again, I'm not trying to sum it up as that. Again, I take it as the ending summing up the whole movie, because at the ending I was like, that was cool as fuck. And it made me understand the idea of the movie. But I just also see it as, I mean, I didn't like the movie a lot for a lot of things. I thought a lot of the scenes were corny. A lot of deaths were just like not really impressive to me. But like, I didn't take it as a political view or nothing. I just say that there was a lot of emphasis on that, whether he would like to admit or not. Like, I think, again, any art you put out is up to the interpretation of the viewer, and he can say whatever he wants, but anybody can watch that movie and say that they see that. That whole white family was killed in that little scene. You know what I'm trying to say? And I'm not sure, again, that's not the whole scene. That's not the whole movie, But yeah, I think that's what stood out to me the most, that it really was just that. And I mean, regardless, I don't care if that was the point or not the point. Of course, he said what he said, but this and that. I just think the movie was bad in general. Like, I saw the movie myself, and for me, I just didn't like it. I think Jordan Peele got a lot of credit for Get Out, and then just his forwardness with movies just went downwards. I think he also created Candyman, right?
He produced it. He didn't create it.
Well, I heard Candyman was really good.
I haven't seen it yet.
The remake and stuff like that. I've only heard of it. I never even watched the original Candyman, which
I heard
is also
very
like
gruesome.
And the original Candyman was black, the actor, and so was the one in the new remake, I'm assuming, which would be right to do so, right?
Yeah.
So I just, again, like, that's just my opinion on it, bro. Like, this is a whole thing on it.
Listen, man. Whatever.
We're gonna have to throw that one in the middle. Just maybe we'll do an A.M.C section and I'll trash that movie.
Whatever, man.
Get Out was a great fucking movie.
I'll say
movie.
I like Us more than Get Out, which is probably a more unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
And I'll just say my last thing, a big thing of why I thought you were putting emphasis on, like, especially the white people dying in the movie, is that I feel like that's a lot of what I heard about that movie after it came out, that people didn't like Us as much as Get Out because it wasn't political as much as Get Out was.
I just didn't.
I feel like that's what I heard mostly from my end of the internet and my people and friends like that and whatever. So that's mostly why I feel like a lot of people who don't like Us don't like it, because it wasn't as political.
For me, like, it wasn't even the political aspect. It just wasn't good. Like, for me, like, as a horror, or would you say, like, a thriller? What'd you say?
I would say it's a horror movie.
It's a horror.
It's a horror.
I just don't think it was. I don't think it was horrific. I just thought it was, like, predictable and just corny jokes and just like, all right, man, like, we get it. Like, this is just this. But again, I loved the ending. Like, for me, the ending summed up that movie, and the imagery, like with the scissors and stuff. Like, the imagery was dope as fuck. But even like the final scene where they were at the car and there was about, like, an explosion or something like that. What was it, like a gasoline track of fire or whatever? It was at the ending and stuff. Even that was just more like, oh, this is cool. It just didn't intrigue me at all. And that scene with the police scene is really one of the biggest, most famous scenes, because it was like a trending video, so constant, That's why it's such an imprint mind in my thing. But it was also that. Like, I'm sure I'll watch the movie and I'll see that again. But we are talking about American history. So, hold on. I gotta do this real quick. Anyway, we'll talk about that though. Maybe we'll watch it too. Just so I can, maybe I'll learn. Maybe I'll get a better perspective on it. We'll never know. So in the scene where there's a curb stomping, right?
Yeah.
One of the most important aspects that I thought was really crucial is that the guy that was stealing the truck of Derek yells at the window or at him while he was grabbing him after he shot him. He says, "My dad gave you that truck," which is crazy. You know, like, again, not even an inch or nothing does not justify his actions towards the guy in terms of curb stomping him, whatever. But it also like emphasizes Derek's mindset for when his father died, trying to save the other people in the fire, and now his father gave that guy a truck, and Derek knew that the whole time, and now he's trying to take it back from Derek. You know, again, not justifying what he did, but it just stirred up this anger in Derek much, much more. I imagine so. Like, make him fight against that reality or that hypocrisy that he's feeling.
And again, to speak to the scene later on of with his actual father at the dinner scene, it's just Derek clearly respected his father and looked up to him a lot. And he says it even to the boyfriend of like, and to his mom of like, how could you do this to dad? You're disrespecting him and things like that.
Yeah. Just like Danny to Derek, you know, like Danny to Derek, it says, I mean, not even that, just like how Danny is just a sponge to Derek, and Derek is a sponge to his father. And I think all siblings to another younger one is a big, big influence.
And that's why I think nature versus nurture comes a lot into this movie, because Derek questions it himself later when he's in prison of why is Danny his responsibility? Yeah. And a lot of it is just, it's because you're family. Like, that's all it is.
What else you got in this world? Like, you're literally born with it off the bat and stuff. Yeah. So it's very, very just interesting. And then we go back to the scene where it's the party happening, right? Like the party where Cameron, the leader of this whole skinhead group, is hosting to celebrate Derek's, you know, comeuppance from prison again. Like, coming back out of prison and stuff. And there's a lot of imagery there, which is the huge Hitler posters. There's a kid on somebody's shoulders hailing Hitler. There's a guy with a literal Nazi like Hitler stash. It's gross. And it actually reminded me when they were singing the racist songs, like in the Nazi songs, it reminded me of Green Room. Okay. You remember that scene where it was a Nazi like rock party, and the one band was like, fuck that, we're gonna sing like anti-Nazi parties, and that's why their bitch asses got killed. I'm not trying to justify Nazi rock. It's just like, you know, you go into an environment trying to preach, you know. It's like the guy, I don't know if you ever heard of this, who tried to bring a Bible and like try to teach like faith of Jesus to a tribal land that kind of sticks to their own island.
No, I haven't heard of this.
His dumbass sailed to an island that's like, you know, full of people that say, do not come here, that live their own life, do their own thing. He tried bringing a Bible there. He got murdered, shot by arrows, and killed. But he tried to teach this land of people who are living on their own about Jesus. Dumbass, you know. But that's what I mean about Green Room. If you haven't watched a great movie, but this band went into a, you know, rock show full of Nazis and said, we're gonna preach, you know. And you know, some can look at it as bravery, you know, trying to like go against the status quo and this and that. Just, I'm not trying to knock that down. I'm just trying to say that, you know, be careful, because some places you go will fuck you up because of the, you know, the irresponsibility of what you're trying to do, you know. So that's why I'm just trying to point out that. What did you think about that scene though?
I mean, I'll just say for myself, like, it always makes me feel weird, because even if like Green Room of like, I listen to punk rock, and it's like seeing them like, oh man, like people who like my music are also like this.
I mean, it's true. And I mean, it goes with a lot of genres though, you know, like but particularly rock, and there's a lot of that in rock for sure, because this is expression of screaming and like, and there's a lot of rage in that mindset, which of course all music can express it, but rock happens to do it. And in a lot of movies is shown with rock and Nazi like mindset is shown. And basically Derek goes to the party and he doesn't care about anything except talking to the leader, who's still running shit. And he says, I'm out. Like, he says, I'm not following in this bullshit no more. Like, he calls him out, the leader of the skinhead group. The skinhead group, the leader apparently did time in prison, but Derek finds out that he never did his full sentence. And he got
he
other
did
people,
like what, 2 months?
and he got other people, like kids, to do his years for him. And then the Cameron guy, the leader, he tries to justify it and say, and try to call the principal who tried to help Derek and Danny. He says he's a manipulative, self-righteous Uncle Tom, and says that, well, Danny can't write about Hitler, but when black people write about Martin Luther King or Spanish people write about Cesar Chavez, it's a pat on the head. And I just think his mind is all fucked up, you know. But again, like in a technicality, like it's true, because even with the principal, when he was talking to the teacher who was complaining about the Mein Kampf report, he was saying, well, you did tell him to write about a civil rights leader that was talking about his people and the movement, which is not wrong to say about Hitler. It just doesn't match up with other people that were trying to push better things for their people rather than a superiority and dominance for their one person.
Yeah.
And so, but when Derek leaves prison, he says, this is dumb. And he doesn't want to do anything of that. And I thought it was interesting how they brought up that the internet really pushed their movement. How it's beyond just spreading the word of mouth in the neighborhood. Now the internet is getting people from Seattle and California and all that stuff, and just moving it forward. It's bigger than just the area they're living in. It's more places. I know they're in California, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they get into a big altercation. Derek punches the leader, and they run.
He
out.
like knocks him out.
Yeah, he basically kicks him in the face, knocks him out. And now we get to the prison scene with Derek, which is crazy. And what you want to sum that up?
I mean, we kind of figure out, well, because what ends up happening at the party or whatever, they find out that Cameron gets knocked out and Derek has to sort of run out.
Yeah.
And Danny catches up to him and he's like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And Derek explains to him what happened to him in prison and why he's had this change of heart. And what we find out in the time that Derek was in prison, shit was rough.
Yeah.
And he thought that it would be easy at first. He kind of cruised along for the first year, was just kind of running with the skinheads.
He was trying to find people, so he showed off his tattoo real quick, and it was like hopefully other people like him would join him. He had a black coworker in the job that he was given in the prison who at first the black coworker was trying to convince him, talk to him, and
he was very
silent.
quiet. Yeah.
And then after a while, like, he caved because the black coworker made him laugh. But they don't name him, of course. That's why we name him that. You know, they don't name him at all either. And after they become friends, they start talking basketball and the NBA and all that stuff. And one of the interesting scenes is when...
It was cute.
It was adorable, right? When they start laughing and stuff and working together. But when Derek gets comfortable enough to ask him, well, how did you get in jail? And the black coworker says, man, I don't want to say it's embarrassing. And I love the part where Derek says, well, what the fuck you mean embarrassing? None of us here got away with anything because they're in prison. I thought that was really funny. And he says, the reason I'm in here is because I went to go steal a TV next to a donut shop. And he's like, what do you mean? You got 6 years. How did you get 6 years for stealing a TV? And he says, well, the black coworker says, I took the TV. And when I got out the shop, the policeman grabbed my arm. And I dropped the TV on his foot. The policeman said that I threw it at him. I got 6 years for assault. And Derek says, come on, man, admit it. You chucked it at him, didn't you? And he looks him straight in the face, the black coworker Derek. He says, I didn't chuck it at him. He grabbed my arm. And he was like, you just stay quiet. And again, it goes back to the conversation that the injustices that are within the legal system that, put black people in these conditions are terrible.
Yeah.
And it's all up to the cops.
It's in that moment that Derek witnesses it for himself for the first time, where he's like,
How
wow.
unfair.
Yeah. Like, wow, like this actually does happen.
Yeah.
Because for such a long time, he really thought that, like, just like with this coworker of his, he really thought that he threw the TV, and he was ready to accept that as the truth.
And that's what he kind of wanted it to be, because like, there's no way that happened to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, bro. Like, you look at a person in the eyes in the prison for that, and you're like, you can see the truth in there.
Yeah,
Sad.
and it just really speaks a lot to that. And I that's definitely the moment where Derek was like,
the change began, I think so.
Yeah.
At least that presence of his outward, personality showed the most.
yeah.
And then we get to the crazy motherfucking scene, which I'll let you take that away.
Wait, oh my God, man.
That's the next scene is that. I write in my notes before Javi says it. I write, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Derek says fuck all to the skinheads and stuff like that, and he decides that he's not going to sit with them.
Yeah.
And the skinheads do not like that. So the next time that Derek is taking a shower, everyone leaves the shower, and all the skinheads come in, and they fucking pin him up against the wall, and
the main leader of the like Nazi group
fucking rapes him.
And he says before he sticks his dick in his ass, because they're all naked, they show everything. He says, "You want to love, N-words? Let me show you how it feels like to be one." And he rapes him. And Edward Norton, Derek, he's like, fuck you, like trying to be like tough against it. And towards the end of it, he starts crying. And then he gets his head, he grabs it from the back and bashes it into the shower, thing. And his blood starts trickling down, and they all walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you realize that Derek is no longer the same person forever.
Yeah.
And even when he goes to sit down and lunch the next day, like he struggles to sit down because
he struggles to even walk.
Yeah, and and it hurts him. And so now we get to the point where he's in the doctor getting stitches by a doctor, not only in his head, but I'm assuming in his rectum and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the principal, Sweeney, visits him because that was one of his students in the past, which, we'll get more into later. And when Sweeney comes, at first, Derek's a little more defensive, laying down on his stomach, and then he starts to cry, ultimately.
He just starts crying.
And he's, and this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie where basically, fucking Derek is laying down. The shot is to his right. He has a white power tattoo on his right arm and a black man's hand on his left while he's crying. And I thought that imagery was so amazing. I thought it was so great to see that.
Sort of like the angel and devil on each shoulder.
Yeah. And how like just reform retribution and all that stuff. And it was just the power of a scene, and you just feel.
And I gotta say, like we've talked about it before on this show of like what is prison supposed to do and supposed to reform you and things like that. And like for Derek, it worked. And
that's where I get a little iffy on it, because you're right, it did. Like for Derek, it did. And Sweeney says this to Derek before we get to that. He says, there was a moment, him as a black man, he says, when I blamed everything and everyone for the vile things that happened to me, to my people. Blame people, society, and God. No answers because I was asking the wrong question. He looks at Derek and he says, has anything you've done made your life better? And I write Principal Sweeney to go. And then he says, you got to help me. Just help me. Get me out of here. I'm up in 4 months for review. Put in a word. I don't want to fuck up my family anymore. Before that, his mom visits him in the prison. And long story short, at the end of it, after an argument during her visit, she yells, you think you're the only one doing time in here?
Yeah,
and that
I
made
thought
me
that was
really
such
reflect.
a powerful line.
Bro, it gives me chills now thinking of it, because I think of everybody in prison whose mom is worrying about them, or father or guardian or sister or brother or son, daughter. And how unfair it is to, people who have to deal with other people's, insincereness and disregard for the people back home that I love them. You know, like despite how he was acting, all his family was caring about him, hoping that, we can just be a normal family. And when he does time, they do time. And yeah, I agree. It was a incredibly powerful scene. And I say, in the interview with Joe Rogan with Edward Norton, he says, he preaches how a man's emotional expression is vital to film, and references Marlon Brando's speeches. I forget the speech in particular, but that speak on the sensitivity of a man's experience, and how important it is for him to represent that, and how big it was for him to show himself like getting raped in that scene and going forward, this and that, and showing him curb stomping, the black man on the curb and all that, like all these, horrible things that happen to one person, how he thinks that's a braver thing to do in acting for a man than it is to, give this powerful testosterone filled speech and everything. And Edward Norton is I don't know if method acting is the best thing. I don't think it's really applicable here.
He's close to it though.
Very close. And I would even say outside the movie, just within the film and all that stuff, because it's crazy. So yeah, so now, and I wrote this. I'll just read it right now. To live life always in fear. This is when I think he gets out of prison.
Okay.
To live life always in fear. I'm not saying it's like a Holocaust scare, like we discussed in the last episode, where it's a constant like jump scare every single second of your life, but a fear that comes because of what you've put out into the world, and maybe not expecting karma, but just the same hate back that you served other innocent human beings. But there are still thoughts of reform and retribution, and I just think that yes, he may have been reformed at 3 years, but he was supposed to serve a life sentence in prison.
Yeah.
And how unfair is it that he gets to change because of what happened to him in prison after a sentence that he got that was literally way shorter than what he should have, compared to any other black person in the jail system who never gets that chance. And we're supposed to feel sorry for him because we're not supposed to. Take it as you will, because I don't think that's the intention of the director. But like how this guy gets a second chance. Like when he got out of prison, I had mixed feelings. I was like, fuck this guy. Like I want him to change for society, but he should rot in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely kind of question it of like, at multiple times throughout the movie, I kind of question of like question the director's choice of like, am I supposed to sympathize or empathize for Derek?
And the reason he didn't serve life in prison is because Danny, his younger brother, never testified. He witnessed the whole thing, but he never testified. He even writes it in his paper. He says, if I would have testified, it would have been life in prison. Because I'm sure like that's truly a hate crime.
Yeah. And again, it just, because there's a big difference between sympathy and empathy.
Of course.
And if you don't know what the difference between sympathy and empathy is,
you find out.
like honestly, if you don't know what the difference is, like the best way I could describe it is like when you're sympathetic towards something, you feel sorry about something, but when you're empathetic, you feel sorry for that person.
Definitely.
Empathy is putting your feet in someone else's shoes. And I think that just really speaks to it as a whole, because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to empathize with Derek or not. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be like, yeah, good for him, or if I was just supposed to sort of accept it.
And I wrote here, just 'cause I took a lot of notes, but he writes, this man is still to be hated for his actions. They're terrible and could never be undone, and still impacting the family and friends of the people he's murdered. The scene where eventually Derek and Danny take down the posters of the Nazi symbols and flags, it's impossible to feel remorse or proudness for Derek. Danny, who's misled, is lucky to never have gotten so far down that route. And back to the family convo with the firefighter, which is about now. Like now the scene starts where they're having the dinner table where Danny says it wasn't always this bad. I mean, but it was. And now it's Derek's late father, the firefighter who died earlier. They're having a conversation. And how it starts off is Derek's in school and he's reading a book called Native Son. And the person who's recommending that book for the curriculum is Professor Sweeney. And he starts praising Professor Sweeney, saying like, man, this guy's so smart. And he has like 2 PhDs or something and this and that. Like he's really praising him. And it's not, oh, he's a black man, I'm praising him.
Personally, I didn't see it as praising. I just kind of saw it as like him just pointing these things out.
Oh, okay.
Just like
I saw it as more like, I mean, you can't believe it how smart he is. Like, you know, I thought it was, but either way it goes, he still was mentioning the fact that he thought he's so smart. He has 2 PhDs. Like those are the, you know, and it seemed like he was enthusiastic about what's going on, in my opinion, at least, right?
I would say he was like definitely invested. Is what I would say.
And then the dad is curious to ask, like, what is Native Son? And when he tells him it's written by like a black man's endeavors in terms of whatever this and that, because I've never read the book myself.
I've read parts of it.
Okay. And the father says, what is it, Black History Month? And Derek says, no, it's just part of the chorus. I wanted to take a moment to talk about Morgan Freeman's take on Black History Month. And I want to play right here, but that will put into supplementaries. But basically, Morgan Freeman is being asked about Black History Month. And he's talking to a Jewish man. And Morgan Freeman, he says, what do you think about Black History Month? And he's like, I think we should start talking about it. And the interviewer is like, what do you mean? And he's like, I think we should talking about it. Like, I think we should stop talking about race. I think you should stop referring to me as a black man, and I should stop referring to you as a white man. And then the interviewer asked, well, what do you think about Black History Month? He's like, I don't want it. He's like, do you have a month? Do you have a month for you, a white man? He's like, well, I'm Jewish. And he kind of smirks. And Morgan Freeman's like, well, do you have a month? And he was like, no. And I was like, exactly. I don't want one either. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was straight up say, like, the reason I chose this movie is because February was Black History Month, you know? And I wanted to commemorate that and appreciate that. I'm not agreeing with Morgan Freeman, to be honest with you. Like, I think we have different perspectives on it. I'm also not a black person, you know? Like, I don't know how it feels like to be one or feel the injustice of one, but I'm a Latino American, you know? So I do feel these injustices as well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it comes in scales and sizes, but I did this because I think we should show that, because some people use that as also a way to learn. And going back to race theory and stuff like that, when we get rid of these things, you know, we just don't give this opportunity to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about Morgan Freeman saying something along those lines before, of like how he kind of doesn't believe in race in a way. And like, I've always felt iffy about that, because it's like, it would be great if we could just all do that, but
It'll be utopia.
Yeah, but I just don't think that's realistic at the end of the day.
I mean, I think it's not realistic in terms of like the precedent set by American history, but I think in long run advancement, it could be. I think we could walk.
Oh, it could.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not out the realm of possibilities, but we're just so backtracked and ill-written mindset wise that it just seems like it can, in my opinion.
I mean, I guess I'm not as optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends. You know, it's just, you know, I don't know. I mean, that just comes down to the future of our country and stuff like that. And I'm optimistic because I think change is doable. We just got to be willing to, you know, and it goes down to our future and our current people and our older people as the interaction. You know, I don't think hate is necessary. I just think it's an option to follow down the route that's taught to you, aka their father to Derek, aka Derek to Danny.
And you know, this movie doesn't make me feel very much optimistic either.
Of course, of course,
because as we get near towards the end of the movie, just the end of the movie had my jaw hit the fucking ground.
Me too. And before that, we just real quick, like when talking about the book, the father mentions affirmative action, referring to affirmative action, talking about the book, and he's saying, he says, "Why are we trying to make everything equal? Why are we trying to turn in great books for black books? You know?" And he says, "Even my job as a firefighter, 2 black guys took the jobs of 2 white guys, and the 2 white guys did better on the test. But just because the other 2 guys were black, they took the jobs of hardworking Americans again." You know, like hardworking good people. And he says to suspect this type of action and question it. And I think I wrote myself a note. How many races work our jobs today?
Yeah.
You know, and it's true. Affirmative action, I don't even want to get into it. I don't necessarily love the idea of it either. Like, my whole thought on it is just, instead of having a law to include me, I would rather have a system that allows opportunity for everyone, although easier said than done.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion on it. And I'll get to the ending right now. I just wanted to throw it in just because, man, the ending had my jaw. But basically, when he was done talking, and ultimately at the end of the conversation, the dad says he doesn't agree with Sweeney's teaching bullshit, and he says that he calls it, the close up on his face, you know, N-word bullshit, which ultimately shows what Danny's saying, that it was always something in the household. It didn't just start with Derek.
Yeah.
And
it didn't start with the death of their father.
Exactly. It was while his father was living. And now we get to the point where, you know, Derek is dropping off Danny to school. It seems like everything's okay. Danny writes his paper. Not even,
man, because it's like even before that, you're seeing clips of like the people driving by, which seems like their place.
But that's what I mean, though. Like with Derek, like you're in fear for Derek's life the whole time. Like he's gonna get his revenge. It's such a mind fuck.
Even when they reach I pointed this out when they reached the coffee shop, which has a super original name. It's called Coffee Shop Restaurant.
And
But even in that moment, fucking
There's a
Derek's
car
like,
that drives by, right?
Derek's like, go inside. I'm gonna get a paper. As soon as he said that, I was like, he's gonna get shot. That's
Every
it.
moment you think he's in a shot, and right before those moments of those like drive-by almost, there's a scene in the shower where obviously the shower scene is where he gets raped in prison, and like the director is a great close-up of the water coming out the spout. But if you notice when he's home and he's taking a shower, there's a close-up on the shower scene, and he's home, he's free, he's out, he's changed. And where else do we see water representing that when it's put upon a person? Baptisms.
Okay.
New chances, new beginnings. You can get baptized when you know. And I saw that as that, like a new beginning for Derek. And then the spout, interestingly enough, doesn't have any like holes in it. It's just kind of like an open pipe. And to me, it looks like a gun aiming at the head of Derek. If you look at the imagery of the shower. And but I thought more so of the baptism aspect of how like he's being cleansed of his past and now he can move forward, which in a way he could.
Yeah.
And he was, because what happens at the end, Javi?
Yeah, man. I mean, because the reason why I say this movie doesn't make me optimistic, because what we see by the end of the movie, you know, Danny's getting dropped off at school by Derek, and Danny is like seeing his girlfriend or whatever. They're having a moment, and it's like he's all happy and excited to hand in this paper that he's been working on, and he goes into the bathroom, and this black kid earlier in the movie, who he blows the smoke into in the bathroom, shoots him.
And the scene is tremendous. As soon as he shoots him, blood splatters all over the area.
There's blood everywhere.
Danny is like flabbergasted, I'll even say. That he's like, what is happening to me? He has this paper that he just wrote, which basically is like his reform in itself for him. But he's dead. Like now he's just dead. He's shot, bloodied in the bathroom. And it's over. Like there's no... You know,
and that's why I say this movie doesn't make me optimistic, because as we see that kid in the car, like during the moments where we think that maybe Derek might get shot, of that we see him in the car with like these other guys and things like that. And even before that, when Danny is at the basketball court and he's kind of looking at him and he's staring him down and stuff, and he's like, yeah, that's the kid I told you about earlier. Yeah,
and there was always this foreshadowing almost of what like this hate was towards Danny, even though Derek was the guy to be focused on the most, kind of, right?
Yeah, and that's why I say this movie doesn't make me optimistic, because hate comes from both sides at the end of the day.
But my response to that is, what about Professor Sweeney?
What about him?
I mean, who is he?
I mean, I feel like he's doing his best to mediate the situation.
I mean, he's living it. He's not just doing his best. He's living it. And not just the situation between Derek and Danny. What does he say to Derek? He's like, I'm not here to show you unconditional love. Like, I'm here to, help however I can. And the best way that Derek can help is by putting in his action, by helping, later on, he asks to help, him, I think, to catch fellow DOC members or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's why it gives me hope, because fuck Derek and Danny altogether, Like, I think Professor Sweeney is the ultimate example of who's always been trying to do right from the beginning, who grew up as a black child, who, even though he's a black man, he grew up being a black child and living through this disgustingness that he's had to endure. He's still fighting for the hope of not only fellow black men, women, and children, but also those obscured by this rage that is nonsensical, that's built on generational, education, not true ones. And that's why it gives me hope, because of all the ugly that stands out more than the positivity prevails, because Sweeney's alive at the end. He chose those routes. Danny and Derek were destined for that death, for that hate. Danny may not live forever, but now Derek technically got his retribution. He got his reform. Danny's just not going to be in it for his actions.
I don't know, man. At the end of the day, for me, I'm still just kind of like, It's good for Sweeney that he was like, for the choices that he's made, he lived the life that he lived. But for that black kid that shot Danny,
it's a cycle again. The same cycle, same thing as Derek to Danny. It's the same thing for the black child, basically in the high school. I mean, when I saw him in the car, aiming like the finger, like as to point at a gun, and they were like kind of being like, "We're gonna kill this kid." I saw basically there's another movie right there to show this guy's route down, being taught the wrong thing.
And that's just kind of why I say it's like there's hate on both sides, because I think that's something that the movie does really well, because if you think about it as a whole, the movie is called American History X. Yeah. It really focuses on what the injustice of this country.
For sure.
But it also hints at and shows the fact that at the end of the day, it is still kind of happening on both ends.
I mean, it's still happening today.
Yeah,
for sure, for sure. But there's also, again, like for every moment or like situation like those, there's hope. And I think Professor Sweeney is one of those biggest hopes, because if somebody who dealt with it on a first-hand basis can go through with it and help others, I look at it as like a priest or like Jesus who forgives all, or this and that, like. Or even like back to Daredevil, who thinks it's not okay to kill people, but, you know, to give them a chance or let them serve their time in jail and all that stuff, where I don't think that, you know, I just think that peace and love prevails too. Like, I think there's a chance for that. I just think, again, that all negative aspects of, you know, situations will always outshine the positive ones, because they're just not as exciting. That the positivity and justice side of things takes time. And then again, like the injustice of things is like a bullet faster. You know, but it's like you got to fight injustice with the legal system, which is way more difficult. And again, I'm not trying to say that it gives me hope. This movie just kind of teaches me that every day is full of decisions you have to make, and how like implicit bias is terrible, because you're doing one person's actions and applying it to another, when it's really should be everybody's actions every single day, every single time, every single moment. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always love this, but this idea that everything has to do with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't think everything has to do with everything.
I love it.
No, I love it too, but I just don't think it's true.
I think it is true.
Okay.
I think everything does have to do with everything. I think kind of like you look at the butterfly effect,
Mm-hmm.
like a fucking butterfly gets stepped on or its wings get clipped, it causes a tsunami.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything matters to everything.
For sure.
I think this movie just kind of highlights that again, that
True.
everything's very important. It doesn't try and gloss over anything. It really tries to highlight all this and say, look at our society and what do you have to say for it?
And I think, yeah, you're right. At the end, it could just be the audience. That this movie really just, I mean, what a fucking movie.
What a movie, man.
Man, like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's a long movie to talk about, and I wonder how lengthy it'll be, like, to look forward overall in the discussion. But I think it's an incredible movie to speak about. It teaches you a lot of things, a lot of perspective, and just, you know, just
it's a roller coaster,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah, bro. And yeah, so I you know, ultimately, you know, in conclusion,
In conclusion, just like how Danny said. So here's my conclusion.
I mean, just check out this movie if you can, because it's a bunch of valuable lessons within it, and I think me and you both can agree that maybe not agree. I hope you do, but everybody should watch this movie.
I would say so.
You know,
it
like,
should be showed in school.
Yeah. But hold on one second. Oh, and actually, the whole movie is free on YouTube. Apparently.
Oh,
I just got an inside source right now, inside scoop from our good
This
guest.
just in.
Which is supposed to be our original intro. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll put it out in Supplementary, our original intro. It's free on YouTube, and if not, it's $3 to rent. Just rent that shit cheap, bitch. Or we'll screen record it and I'll send it to you. Just ask me, just DM me. So anyway, Javi, what any last remarks?
Any last remarks? All I gotta say is that I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Facts.
If you want to follow us online, we're on Instagram and TikTok,
Yeah.
and YouTube.
Yeah, man. Earth Mind Matter Pod, right?
Yep, on Instagram and TikTok, and just Earth, Mind, and Matter on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you can find our A.M.C. episodes and things like that.
Visual shit. You can see
Visual
our beautiful
shit.
faces.
Yep, get a good look of how ugly we are.
And our good friend Jonathan.
Yep, we'll have a lot of visual gags going on.
Hell yeah.
Like that.
And
but yeah, man, that's what was going on the earth.
and this is what happened in our minds.
This is why it mattered.
And this is Earth, Mind, and Matter. Good morning, good evening, good night.
And have a beautiful fucking weekend.
And Jonathan, what do you gotta say?
Guys, thanks for listening this long, man. We're really out of here, though.